This year's summit was scheduled to take place in Dublin, but like everything else, moved to a virtual format in the wake of COVID-19. We hope to be able to meet there in the future, but for now, Paul Bridges, ParXL's Senior Vice President, Regulatory and Access, and head of our Dublin office, will take us on a virtual tour to kick off our meeting.
Good morning, Paul Bridges here, and welcome once more to the virtual 2020 Global Leadership Summit. I'm stood here on the banks of the Grand Canal in Dublin. I've just left my home to make the short journey to the ParXL Kilmainham office, and disappointed though I am that I'm not able to welcome you in person to this meeting, I did want to whet your appetite for when you can perhaps join me in person when this pandemic is behind us. Of course, no tour of Dublin will be complete without a pint of the black stuff. I've taken a shortcut on the way to the Kilmainham office. We're getting closer now, but I'm in the heart of the St James's Gate Brewery. And behind me, some of you will recognise the Halfpenny Bridge, popular tourist spot in the heart of Dublin here. So called because you used to have to pay half a penny to walk across that bridge a couple of hundred years ago. We're also very close to the Temple Bar area of Dublin, full of pubs, restaurants and bars. It's quiet again right now. I suspect some of us would have ended up there during the Global Leadership Summit and been able to in person raise a glass to ParXL and all of our achievements in 2020. I've paused briefly outside the Clayton Hotel here in the heart of Dublin. This would have been the location for us this year for the Global Leadership Summit. Laurie and her team worked really hard to identify a fabulous location for us. I hope it's just been put on ice and that you can visit me at some point in the near future. The building that you see behind me is an iconic building in Irish history terms. It's the Kilmainham Jail. And back in 1916, it was the epicentre of the rebellion against the British Empire, the Easter Rising of 1916, when the Irish state rose up and overthrew British rule and became an independent country. Okay, so we finally made it into the Kilmainham office. Here I am. The office is much quieter than it usually is today. We only have a handful of people with the restrictions. A shout out to Orla, Fiona, Roy and the team for keeping us safe during this COVID period. But I wanted to introduce you to a couple of the members of the team. Forgive my camera work here. Andrew and Noreen, if you want to introduce yourself, it would be nice to hear from some of the Dublin office team.
Hi everyone, Andrew O'Daly here. A lot of the commercial organisation will know who I am, but for those of you who don't, I'm an enterprise account leader responsible for the commercial relationship with two of our enterprise accounts, Boehringer Ingelheim and Merck KGaA. FY20 was a phenomenal year for Boehringer. A lot of great successes. We managed to grow the account significantly, and it wouldn't have been possible without the team effort across the organisation, from commercial to operational leadership, contracts, legal and finance. So we're poised for great growth in FY21, and we look forward to continued success in commercial.
Thank you, Andrew. And Noreen here as well.
Hey everyone, Noreen. I know many of you, but I head up the solution consulting team for regulatory and access. We've had a record year in terms of the amount of signed contracts that we got through the door, and that is absolutely down to the hard work and dedication of many people in this office, many of our contract managers, many of the contract administrative staff, and also LRM. So I think there's huge kudos to that team because the hours they put in is unbelievable. So it's a shame that you can't all be here with us this year, but hopefully we're giving you a flavour of what's to come.
So there we have it. Thanks for joining me on that whistle-stop tour of Dublin, introducing you to some of the sights and sounds of Dublin the city, and also Kilmainham, the Dublin office of ParXL. Thanks again for joining me. Sorry we can't be together in person, but keep me in your travel plans when things start opening up, and have a fabulous virtual Global Leadership Summit.
It goes without saying, 2020 has been a challenge for all of us. But something happened in the past months. Something unexpected. At the heart of this year, innovation happened. Reevaluation happened. Collaboration happened. Unforeseen opportunities became a reality. And thankfully, at the heart of all of this was you. Supporting more than 50,000 patients, working with more than 6,000 sites, serving over 1,000 customers, completing almost 300 projects, and keeping our focus on patients as a leader in the fight against COVID-19. Now it's time to move forward, to see what the new future holds, to leverage the lessons learned and turn the challenges of 2020 into the successes of 2021. With momentum and fresh energy, never missing a beat when it comes to customers and patients, with even more innovation. It's time to leverage our strengths and celebrate our accomplishments as a best brand, as one of the best CROs, as a leader in exceeding customer expectations, as a leader in promoting equality, and as one of Forbes America's best employers for diversity. We've done a lot, but we're not done. Bring on 2021. We can't wait to see what the future has in store. With your help, with confidence, and more than ever, with heart. Tomorrow's Par XL is here today. Welcome to the 2020 Par XL Global Leadership and Sales Summit.
Now here's Chief Commercial and Strategy Officer Peyton Howell.
Wow. Welcome to our Global Sales and Leadership Summit. That was a fun and exciting way to get our morning started here in the US. And good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of my colleagues. We are excited to be together, obviously wishing we were together in person, but excited to be able to have this format and time together. Let's jump into our day. It is a busy day, so I will do a brief opening. First, want you to see the agenda for the day. And you can see it's going to be busy. And actually, in between all of these spots, we'll be featuring videos, both of our customers as well as patients, to ground us for the day. We are going to go till about 12:20. And obviously, the build-up will be to our awards towards the afternoon. On the next slide, I just want to highlight there are lots of resources for you if there's any technology related challenges, which certainly can happen, certainly if your Wi-Fi interrupts, etc. And one piece of advice is, if you're using Teams, use it on your mobile phone. Make sure you're closed out of everything else, including VPN on your computer for the best performance. So there'll be resources for you in Teams. And again, you can use your mobile Teams to be able to access that. Next slide. I wanted to reflect, and I've actually asked all of the ELT members really to reflect on the lessons learned in the past year. And it has been an amazing year from a momentum perspective. And for me, there's really four things that have stood out. First, and probably most importantly, actually, are just the characteristics of a winning team. And I think we have all seen that in action. We've called it hustle, we've called it passion, but that energy and that almost gut level feeling and hungry, just being hungry to win, that feeling has really come through this year. So for me, I think that mindset piece that we talked about a year ago in Dallas, I think we've really seen in full this year. Another big lesson learned is strategy. And we've had a very clear strategy, a patient-centered strategy. So the right strategy in the right market, and we're frankly in a fantastic market, obviously gives us an opportunity for success. The third big learning is one that really we're propelling into 2021, and that's just the importance of continuing to hone our skills, continuing to learn and develop. And that's one of the reasons that we are kicking off the Challenger Sales Training as well, to continue to develop and advance our learning. And a lot of the Challenger series is really about the fourth lesson learned, which is really knowing your customer intimacy, and really adapting what we do to the needs of our customers in a consultative way. And I just want to tell you how exciting it is to be with all of you. The momentum that we're seeing walking into this meeting from a year ago is fairly significantly different. So thank you for everything you're doing to make that possible. On the next slide, I'm actually giving you a summary version of a quote I shared last year in Dallas. And that this is actually from the book Grit by Angela Duckworth. And the premise of her research is that that grit, which means perseverance plus passion, is really what drives success, both on an individual level and at a team level. And again, for me, I think this is one of the things that I'm seeing. Sometimes we are entering from behind. Sometimes we have relationships we're rebuilding with clients from many, many years ago. But that perseverance and that passion together are driving results. So we really are, I think, proving out that research pretty significantly together. And that certainly is one of the things I'm most proud of as I reflect on the year. Next slide. I did ask Ben Doff to actually help me with a couple of records, and it was hard to honestly skinny them down. So I'm just going to share a few because I want to make sure you all know how much you're making history, and I think it's a great way to frame up the day. First of all, when we look at fiscal 20, here's a few of my favorite records. First of all, a record in terms of signed gross MBA from our Asia Pacific customers. The performance that we saw throughout the pandemic and throughout the entire year from APAC is just outstanding. How about record FSP growth? We know we have a long way to go in terms of growing our FSP franchise, including our ExecuFarm brand. It's going to be critical that we build upon that, but to have 25% year-over-year growth is exactly the path that we need to be on. And then we had record biotech growth. And I know this is hard because we actually didn't quite meet the targets in biotech, yet somehow we had 19% year over year growth, and as well as record numbers of proposals, over $7 billion in proposals. So you can see that together we are having that momentum. We're working to continue to improve that hit rate and obviously deliver repeat business through delivering for our customers. And then last but not least, and you're going to see some videos actually on this, we've just had an incredible year for enterprise, really transforming the majority of our accounts from being accounts that frankly were stagnant or challenged to into the growth mode, which is just fantastic and critical for us being the largest part of our business overall. And then as we enter this meeting on the next slide, you'll see for quarter 3 here, we also are entering with a lot of strength. Leadership and our COVID awards has been critical. Just in the past few weeks even, we've added more vaccine phase 3 trials. And what we're doing for patients on the therapeutic side is literally frontline news. We have a record amount in terms of pre-contract awards entering the quarter. We just came off an amazing segment, but in particular, decentralized clinical trials, both wholly decentralized as well as now the standard, which are these hybrid type approaches. We were just shy of $1 billion in pre-contract awards for this quarter, highest quarter in the last 6 years. And it's a quarter that normally actually isn't our strongest. So that's actually outstanding. And then our AstraZeneca Solus Award really fits a lot of the things I'm talking about. I can tell you that was a physical win as we were waiting to hear the news. It's our largest partnership win since we've gone private, and we knocked out IQVIA. And I've got to tell you, it felt really, really good. So you're going to hear from the AZ team also today as well. Next slide. But my favorite number, I've given you lots of numbers. My favorite number is that we are the #1 CRO for MBA growth right now. Just an amazing statistic. You'll hear more about that. A lot of momentum that we can keep building upon, but just an exciting time to be here at Parexel and with all of you. Next slide. So I did talk about One Boat last year, and I've been delighted that many of you have actually jumped onto that. And I just want to remind you of that because we are actually seeing that even though we're physically not together in Dublin right now, I really do feel like we are one. I have that feeling that we really have each other's backs. And I also have that feeling like we're just getting started. We are absolutely rowing together. We still have challenges, no doubt about it, but we have more paddlers than ever. I absolutely believe we have one boat. I do think we actually previously had some competing boats. I absolutely think we all have one boat. Some people are in different seats in the same boat, but it's all one boat. And we are in it to win it. And that, again, that hungry, that feeling really has come out through the team. So congratulations, and let's keep building upon that momentum. Next slide. While you take out your chevron from your box and a marquee, I call it a Sharpie, but it's a marker with Parexel name on it, I want to show you a quick video clip from last year's meeting in Dallas. installed in our new office just outside of Boston, just to really frame up where we're at and start the day focused on your why, right? The why we do what we do. Add your why onto your chevron. If you haven't gotten your box yet, I know it's coming, but hopefully most of you have received it. But add on what it is for you. It's a great way for us to frame it up. We're going to be starting the leadership meeting similar to this, actually focused on our why. And it's also a good way as we talk about some of the patient videos that you're going to see, how to be reminded of why we do what we do. Now, before I actually turn it over to Jamie to start us out, I do want to actually set up the first video. You're going to actually be hearing from Rachel Daly, and her son Jack was diagnosed at age 3 with a rare cancer, but actually presented with symptoms of another rare disorder. So obviously a very challenging situation. Rare diseases and pediatrics are certainly some of our fastest growing areas, some of our most important areas, and an area where we can make tremendous difference. Good news is Jack is in better health today, and he is part of the why of what we do every day. So let's hear Jack's story, and then we'll hear from Jamie McDonald. Thank you.
So my son Jack was diagnosed age 3 with a rare cancer called Langerhans cell histiocytosis. He presented with symptoms of another rare disorder called diabetes insipidus. And during hospital investigations, a small lump was found in his skull. He had an MRI scan, and that showed he had 3 lesions in his skull and in his pituitary store. So he completed a year of treatment, which included chemotherapy and steroids. Very quickly had to learn a new language, I guess, all the kind of medical terminology, learn how to actually conduct medical procedures. We used to flush his Hickman line and things like that and administer the chemotherapy. So it massively changed our day-to-day lives. When Jack was first diagnosed, because of the way the treatment plan worked, I managed to continue working full-time. And he finished that treatment and was well for around 18 months, but remained under surveillance under the hospital's oncology department. Unfortunately, the disease reactivated then just before his 7th birthday, and he started a second course of treatment. But when he relapsed, I just had his sister. And because of the aggressive nature of the treatment, I had to come out of work, had to leave my career in order to care for him and sort of give him my full-time attention. He was well during that treatment mostly, but it was much more. It was a much more severe form of treatment. Currently, he's enjoying a period of good health. He's finished that course of treatment and he has no evidence of disease at the moment, but he'll remain as an outpatient under oncology, endocrinology and the audiovestibular consultants due to the late effects and the long-term nature of the underlying conditions. So it has had a big impact on our lives. I mean, communication, I think that's the key. I think it's the key bit of feedback always. And having, for me, so when Jack was first on treatment, the first centre he was treated at, I had pretty much an open door with his consultant, and I could email him whenever and he would reply when he could. The current centre doesn't have that same flexibility. It's a much more kind of hierarchical contact. The secretary, you haven't got the direct link in to the treating consultant. From an experience perspective, it feels much more tailored. If you know that person you're talking to knows who your child is and knows about them. Just, it would mean less time worrying what if for us. Obviously Jack's had one instance of a disease reactivation, and that threat of it happening again will always be there, even if he grows into an adult and never does every ache and pain. He does Thai boxing, so he might come home with a bit of a sore leg from training. always in the back of my mind is that something more sinister? It's never just an ache, and I will never pass off, a sniffly nose or, a bit of a tummy ache or whatever as just that. It's always in the back of my mind, and I think if a new therapy was approved, it would just reduce the need for me and other families like us to have to worry and have to have those thoughts, I guess. It would be great.
I want to say, firstly, thank you to the sales team. I think it's always good to start a presentation by saying thank you. I'll also say thank you during the presentation to really great effort during the first 2/3 of 2020. Obviously, we've got a few months still to go. And then I'll wrap it up by saying thank you. But in the meantime, I'm also going to take you through just really some of the activities we've seen since we last met, which was really last October back in Dallas. Obviously, a huge amount has gone on within ParExcel, but a significant change globally in the way that we've done business, and really want to talk a little bit about that as well. So next slide, please. So really, our world has changed in 2020. I think that's absolutely no doubt about that. We'd all hoped to be together in Dublin. It would have been a great time of year to be there. I don't know what Peyton and Laurie and Paul Bridges and Simon would have had planned for us, but I'm sure we'd have had a lot of fun being together in person. And we're going to do that again. So at some point, we will have the opportunity to be together again and really celebrate some of the success that we've had, but continuing to network and build those personal relationships. A little harder to do virtually, but we're certainly going to make an effort to do that through the next day or two. 2020, the lessons that we've learned, we pivoted our business. So back in March, I think we obviously had a sense earlier in the year that COVID was going to cause disruption to our business. Certainly in January and February, that looked as if it would be confined maybe to parts of Asia. But clearly with the spread of COVID globally and the impact on travel, we've had to adapt our business to what is a pretty significant business disruption. Fortunately, we had business continuity plans and a good team focused on those. I think the IT organization particularly did a great job of expanding our VPN, access points, and allowing our teams to work from home. But we had to adapt, and many businesses did. And we were really in a fortunate industry where our business was probably less disrupted than many of our sort of friends and family who work in other industries. We had to listen to our colleagues. I think we spent a lot of time trying to understand the needs of our colleagues, not just working from home, but how does their new work from home life intersect with their personal life and their needs. It's really important that first line managers took the time to speak to their teams and understand what they were going through as we navigated the pandemic. I think truthfully, as we look at the next few months, we may see further lockdowns, so back into a more restrictive environment. It certainly seems that way, particularly in parts of Europe, possibly in the US, particularly as we see a Northern Hemisphere flu season as well. But we have a comprehensive business continuity plan and a really strong team that have done great work with our general managers, with our functional heads and leadership as well. And I think if the lockdowns do come back, we're going to be better prepared than we were even back in March and April when we handled this pretty well. I think we've been very transparent on communications. That's been absolutely critical. We took a lot of very conservative measures up front, which I think were the right thing to do, and really has ensured the strength of the business going forward into this part of the year, and obviously setting us up for 2021 as well. So we've been very flexible, we've been very resilient, and still delivered for our customers and delivered for patients across all disease areas, but particularly for COVID as well. Next slide, please. So we've invested in our colleagues and business. You've probably seen that throughout the organization. And despite pretty much all of us working from home, we've continued to put investment into our business on the SG&A side, into operations, and into other support systems as well. We've continued with training, we've continued to evolve our business, which I think is really encouraging. We've encouraged our colleagues to collaborate. I think the rollout of Microsoft Teams was perfectly timed. And we've also collaborated to deliver on innovative solutions. The markets really required us to do things differently. Who would have thought we'd have done remote qualification or initiation visits of sites? But we managed to get it done. We've worked with ethics, regulators, vendors, and others to really collaborate together to keep business moving forward on existing studies, on new studies, and obviously a lot of work in the COVID environment as well. And we've stayed intimate with our customers. It really is quite interesting. I think our customers traditionally liked a lot of face-to-face time, and we've managed to connect with them. I think all of us are getting tired of video calls, but we've really done a pretty nice job of staying connected to our customers. And I think there's a higher degree of empathy across the industry for the changes that we've all experienced, not just in our work lives, but also our personal lives as well. Next slide, please. So what's going on in global healthcare? And I think this is important to look at in the context of our world, which is really the pharmaceutical industry. Healthcare is still a huge part of the global economy, and even more so in a COVID environment. As a subset of healthcare, obviously the pharma industry is critically important. And if you think about it, if we're able to develop a vaccine and we're able to develop and market and approve therapies, that's going to have a huge beneficial impact, not just to the cost of healthcare, keeping people away from critical care, keeping people out of the hospital, getting them back to useful, productive lives, but really on the quality of life for society as a whole, getting us back to some level of normal in the coming months and quarters is going to be a huge boost for all of us, but I think for our industry overall. And it's been really great to see the collaboration across different pharma groups, the CRO industry, regulators, vendors, and others, sites as well. Patient volunteering has been pretty good in the COVID environment. Obviously, we want to ensure that that continues so we can continue to develop new therapies. A lot of work outside of COVID, so a lot of novel therapies coming through that are having meaningful benefit to patients. Curative therapies, substantial improvements in quality of life, and longevity as well. So you can see it in immuno-oncology. The CAR T and gene and cell therapies as well have been fantastic. Patients are becoming an increased focus as well. This is a huge plus for us. I think we've positioned ourselves as a company authentically in that sort of patient sphere. So I think the work that we've seen across all the teams, Sai, Ros Round, and others will really benefit us going forward as being a leader in a patient-first context. We're seeing a boost from near-term COVID work across our industry. There are literally over 1,000 trials underway looking at vaccines, therapies, prophylactics, and others. And that will continue for a period of time. It's not going to come to a dead stop. I don't think we're going to eradicate COVID in the short term. Many people say it may be an annual vaccination, for instance, similar to influenza. We can hope that there are better therapies and that it is pretty much eradicated over time, but it will take probably several years before we get to some level of control over the disease. But it's been very encouraging to see the collaboration, particularly across different pharma groups. If you look at most of the vaccines that are coming through, many of them are collaborative efforts, which is great to see. Next slide, please. So our market is, it's interesting. This is an extract from Jefferies, who are one of the sort of key analysts in our sector. And the market has continued to grow well. I know the yellow line moves up and down, but these are all still positive growth indicators. So if you look back at 2018, come through into 2020, where we've seen a slight decline in growth, but still growth, despite the global economy being in recession and contracting, we're still likely to see a growth in the CRO market of about 4%, going back up to high single digits in the next few years. That's great news for us as a market, also for our competitors, but it certainly signals the strength of the pharma industry and the strength of outsourcing. So the pharma industry is continuing to grow. R&D spend is probably 3 to 4% per annum. And that's good. That's an encouraging place to be. But additionally, there is increased outsourcing penetration. So as the pharma industry grows, it actually outsources more than it would have if it kept that work in-house. That's coming through in full service work. It's coming through in functional outsourcing, so FSP work, and business process outsourcing. So in areas like pharmacovigilance, we've seen a lot of growth as a company because the pharma industry has outsourced that entire function to the likes of us, but also some of our competitors as well. Obviously, we're going to see a little bit of a boost, I think, in next year from the number of COVID trials and some of the continuation of that work. But what we've also seen is improvements in the use of technology, particularly in the decentralized clinical trial space. So think telehealth, the ability to reach patients at their home rather than bringing them into a physician's office or a hospital setting. That's been a big plus. Looking at new ways of constructing trials, so not just adaptive trials, but areas like synthetic control arms. Population augmentation through real world data has been a huge boost for the industry as well. So I think many of the lessons learned and the adaptations that we've made during COVID can be applied in the post-COVID world and can certainly boost our industry, make us more efficient, make us more effective, simplify the burden on sites and also patients as well. The labor market is tight for us. Certainly we're seeing some wage inflation, pressure for key roles. We're going to continue to have to develop talent and bring in new talent, and then obviously grow and progress our own talent internally in order to meet that demand as well. The regulatory environment has definitely improved, and I think there will be some lessons learned that if we can take away some of this white space that exists in our industry from phase to phase, but also from startup through site initiation, patient enrollment, I think we're pretty efficient on the back end in terms of locking databases, cleaning data, delivering TLFs and CSRs. We're good at that as an industry, but there's still a lot of white space that I think can be removed and streamlined, and that's work that we've got ongoing even here within Parexel. Next slide, please. So this is just a little bit of an overview of the CRO market. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. Most of you will know who the main competitors are. The big sort of 8 or so make up about 2/3 of the market. IQVIA the largest. Good to see PPD back public so we can keep a benchmark on those. The other larger CROs, Greg will always say the most comparable ones to us are PRA and Icon, because they look most like us. They are traditional clinical contract research organizations. Covance obviously has a big lab business, preclinical, part of LabCorp. Syneos obviously has a large commercial business. PPD have a much larger lab than I think many of us probably realize. They also have a lot of investment in the site network space, having bought CRA, Radiant, Synexus, Accurion on the patient enrollment side. And obviously IQVIA with the merger with IMS has a lot on the data and analytics side. So when you look at comparisons, not just on size, but in terms of service offering, Icon and PRA probably most like us. MedPay is quite a bit smaller, but there is still 1/3 of the market that is made up by a lot of smaller CROs that we have to compete with. And so we compete with all the ones here highlighted in color, but also the ones in gray that are at the smaller size and scale as well. Next slide, please. So a huge positive. I mean, we had a surprisingly good year, and obviously we're changing our financial year. We're in a stub period before we move into an aligned calendar and financial year in 2021. But we've done a massive amount of work supporting patients and sites and customers and projects. Adding to that, a lot of work, and I think we are pretty much industry leading in our support to the response to COVID-19 with over 110 trials and projects in that space as well. Driving a lot of innovation, and you're going to hear more about this. So the first biological license application using a synthetic control arm is a huge boost. The ability to bring in a control arm, ultimately we'll also look at placebo arms from existing real world data, will boost efficiency in our industry. And we've got to find other ways of making ourselves more efficient, more effective, and delivering higher quality as well. On the bottom right, record growth. We were the fastest growing CRO in the market based on the last year's results ending at the end of June. As Greg will tell you, we were growing from a lower base because our performance had not been good in prior years. But you have to get back to growth. And we've done a really nice job of doing that in the first part of 2020. It will continue in the second half of the year. Huge effort from the sales team. I want to thank you all again for your efforts. A lot more hustle, a lot more ownership, delivering good quality proposals that we can deliver on and delight the customer and bring that customer back. We're not there yet on some of our delivery, but it will continue to improve, and that will bring more repeat business and bring in new customers as well, particularly in the biotech space where we've seen great success. Next slide, please. So we are evolving, I think particularly on the innovation side. So we adapted from business as usual to trial continuity, focused on making sure that we could continue to connect with sites and patients, get them drug supply, monitor those trials, control data and quality. And I think we've done a really good job of adapting to that environment. What we've got to do now is take advantage of that and the lessons learned in decentralized clinical trials, using more data, more analytics, more real-world data, working better with the regulators. That's going to continue to be a process, not just for us, but for our customers as well, and making some of these innovations and new approaches the new normal to make us more efficient as an industry. And I'm seeing strong signs of that across, yes, our competitors, but also our customers as well. Next slide, please. Not going to spend too much time on the strategy map. You've all seen this. This strategy map will be with us for several years. We're going to continue to work to be easier to do business with. That's not yet fully there, but it's definitely better than it was even this time last year. We are leveraging our strengths. We're investing in our business. We're investing in areas like Asia, regulatory, technology, and also on the innovation side as well. So we've made a lot of progress there. We are keeping the patient at the heart of everything that we do. I think hopefully you are seeing that and feeling that as well. We're getting feedback from multiple sources. So some of the groups that survey the industry, from sites themselves, from some of the patient groups as well. You can see the measures down the left-hand side. So we will continue to grow at or above market, and we're starting to do that. We are retaining and attracting industry-leading talent. That's a big plus for us as well. Seeing more repeat business, improving quality, and building and improving our reputation is a big plus as well. And you can start to feel that that's happening. On the right side, some of the core values, clearly patients first, and it's appropriate that it's at the top of the list. Quality is critically important. I think we still have work to do in the quality space, but it's definitely getting better. Respect, empowerment, and accountability. You've seen that we've flattened structures. You've seen that we've simplified the business as well. And we're trying to continue that process even as we get into 2021. Next slide, please. So really bringing this together, it's about people, process, systems, and obviously culture, and trying to align that to make the organization more effective. And we've seen better cooperation across clinical, consulting, the commercial parts of the organization, finance, the SG&A groups. It is important. We've got some big investments that we're making. So if you think about PRISM, CTOR, Viva for TMF and SSU, but a new HRIS system coming, hopefully a new timesheet system, which I think we'll all be happy with. But we're continuing to put pretty significant investments into the business, and that will continue to make us better and more efficient. Next slide, please. So trying to bring the right operating model together, you should understand that the left-hand side is building the strategy. What are we going to do? How are we going to do it? Where are we going to make investments? What's going to drive the organization going forward? Hopefully you're starting to see more of the operating model. So we're simplifying structure. We're improving accountability. We're putting the right sort of tools in place and data for governance purposes. Trying to find better ways of working, so simplifying systems and tools and SOPs, that's got to continue, but investing in our capabilities, as we've said. invest in our people, invest in process improvement, use technology to make our business more efficient. And then on the execution side, implementing on all that, taking advantage of the investments that we've made, making sure that we have the right people in the right roles, getting that feedback loop in place, which we've been weak on. And I think we're getting better in that environment where we get feedback internally from customers and from others as well. And then obviously, even in the current environment, mitigating risk as well. And I think we're continuing to be a better execution organization. Still room to improve, but I think that that work will continue and we'll benefit from it, certainly over the next year to 18 months as well. Next slide, please. So really what we're looking at is the two things that I think I'm probably most focused on is improving our operational effectiveness. So this is really doing what we do, but doing it just better to really a best practice level. Looking at our competition, understanding how we can improve our organization and invest in tools to make us more efficient in the way that we currently run our business. What we're also trying to do, and you're going to see more of this in the coming months and quarters, is improve our strategic position. What is that competitive and sustainable advantage that will allow us to grow faster than the market and improve our margins so we can continue to invest in our business and our people? If you want to call it, we're trying to run a different race. And we're starting to see the elements of that. So the use of technology, remote monitoring, decentralized clinical trials, simplifying work structures, bringing in best-in-class technology, whether it's internal or from the outside, to help us improve that work as well. So a lot going on in the business, and you'll see more in the coming months and quarters as well. Last slide, please. So finally, for me, a huge thank you. I know it's been a very unusual and really disrupted year, but the way that you have all adapted and continued to drive the business is truly remarkable. I think for myself, the leadership team and the board, a huge thank you. We will take the opportunity to celebrate if it's even going to be virtually, and I'll definitely look forward to the chance to being together again so we can celebrate in person. Thank you all.
Andrea, Stephen, many thanks for agreeing to speak with us today. As you know, we're very excited about the recent Solace Partnership Award, and would love for you to share some of your perspectives today with us on why you chose Parexel. When we think about Solace, what were you looking for in a partner for your phase 2-3 Solace partnership?
We were looking for CROs that we could strategically partner with. I mean, partnering is a key word there. We wanted to find CROs that had the same values and principles as AstraZeneca, and really being able to work together with those CROs was key, both at the senior executive level and on the ground for the study teams.
And in choosing Parexel, what were the criteria that you looked at in making the selection decision?
We really wanted to focus on what your core capabilities were, what were the differentiating factors for the CROs we were looking at, and really make sure that you were agile and flexible. I think there were two words that we really needed, flexibility and approach was really key.
As you thought about the pursuit and as you think about Parexel's overall business strategy, interested just to hear how you felt that came through in the context of, putting the patient first, being easier to do business with, and bringing our expertise to the table.
I think what came through in the assessment was Parexel's patient centricity. I think the other thing we were really looking for, ease of working with Parexel, and we were impressed, and the teams were impressed by, I think, the approach your teams took to the Solace process, which is very different. You could say maybe have unnerved your teams a little bit, but they really brought into it.
To flip back to the process itself, you actually gave us a presentation with a narrative on it that showed us what we could expect over the coming weeks. So I remember looking at it thinking, wow, and you had a lot of people involved at your side. I'd say well in excess of 100, and you needed to get them involved and motivated to take part. So where do you start, and how do you really get that process moving?
Well, it goes back to when we began the whole sourcing strategy, which, the first time AstraZeneca's attempted have a single sourcing strategy for R&D. But the way we kicked off that sourcing strategy was really to make it as inclusive as possible, so they had representations for all key functions. And we really spent time understanding the needs of those key functions. When I saw those needs, I thought we needed to take a different approach to really evaluate our CRO partners rather than a traditional approach, because there's such a great opportunity to do something different and make sure that those needs were ultimately translated into our selection process. By bringing in people that really would work in Solace and be touched by Solace, they were key stakeholders. They were going to be touched by that decision. So therefore, it would make sense for them to be intimately involved in the process itself. I think we were also driven by the COVID situation that forced us to think differently. We couldn't have face-to-face meetings, but we turned that, if you like, that handicap into an advantage, because it forced us to think in a different way. And actually, I think we ended up with a more robust and thorough process than we've done before.
And, I do think the team, they embraced that, and they didn't only, come up with a new process. They took advantage that we could include more people.
When I think about just the logistics of what we accomplished in that period of time, if we didn't do it in the virtual model through Zoom meetings, etc., I'm not sure it would even have been possible to bring all of those people, all those experts to bear in that, relatively short period of time. So, I think the technology really worked in our favor, and I think we got a really positive outcome as a consequence of it.
Yeah, the great thing for us, Stephen, is that because you instructed us to bring the project teams into the process, they've now dropped nicely into the implementation space, and they're building it, and then they'll be part of it delivery-wise once it gets going. So it's really worked at our end too.
I'm a great believer of listening to the customer, and one of the things they're saying is, how will it be different? We can't just do the same. And I suppose that represents we had to do something different from the selection due to COVID, but it actually gave us the trigger to really get buy-in to doing something different.
Are there other comments you would want for the ParExcel team and the ParExcel leadership team as we move forward now into implementation?
This is only just beginning.
We hope so.
Down to us all to make this a success, sure. And now the partner to make this a success together. And I'm confident we can. And it's about a long-term partnership. This is not about a short-term win.
From our perspective, the best is yet to come, and we really, from the bottom of our hearts, want to thank you again for selecting ParExcel. We do look forward to continuing to work with you, to wowing your teams and doing meaningful work for patients worldwide on your behalf. So thank you very much, and thank you very much for the time today.
That AstraZeneca Solus video was fantastic. Congratulations to the team. What a great story. Next, we're going to shift to an open Q&A with the executive lead team. And before we kick it off, I do have to thank this team. The momentum that we've had this past year is in part also due to the support we have from all the executives that you see on the screen. I cannot think of an example where we didn't ask for assistance and didn't immediately get it. And on behalf of the entire commercial and sales organization, I just really have to tell you all how grateful I am for your support. It's been the difference maker with a number of our accounts and relationships and intimacy. And on that note, I'd like to actually pick up first with one of the comments that Jamie made in his session, and that I actually also mentioned in my opening, that ParExcel right now is the fastest growing CRO based on our June 30th results. And I'm really curious what you each think is driving this improvement over the last year, and most importantly, how we can continue to deliver at this level. So Jamie, maybe I'll give you the first start and maybe go to Greg and around the table here.
Yeah, I think it's obviously multifaceted. I mean, for us, a large part of it is obviously the success in biotech. We were underrepresented there as a market opportunity. Growth in FSP has been really good, but we've also recovered a good amount of our enterprise accounts. And I think some of that's coming from improving and cleaning up our delivery and staying close to those customers. So it's really been an effort on all fronts. Delivery continues to improve. It has to get better. But I think that's definitely been a plus. And we've been very competitive. I think we saw this probably a year ago. We weren't winning every opportunity, but we were getting pretty close. And we've sort of turned the tide that those sort of coin flip 50-50 opportunities, we're winning more than our fair share. I know that sort of sounds a sort of contradiction, but we seem to be on the right side of some of the key decisions. Obviously, AZ Solus is just one example. So I think that it's really down to the efforts, not just on the sales team, but operations and across the board. So we've got to be excited by that.
Absolutely. Greg, is there anything you want to add to that? Obviously, this continued momentum is a big piece that we'll be hearing from you today.
Yeah, I think it's really leveraging our strengths that we talked about last year. You know, we had a record year in Asia Pacific, so that was great. We are certainly leveraging our regulatory and consulting to expertise, particularly in COVID, as you think about being one of the top 3 or 4 CROs and winning COVID studies. So it's just a great year leveraging our strengths. And again, Jamie said across the board, everyone did great.
No, that's fantastic. I want to give others a chance to chime in. Sai, maybe I'll pick on you next. Anything from your perspective that you think we need to keep doing?
Yeah, I think to add to what Jamie and Greg already said, and you mentioned it too, Peyton, on my end, I believe we innovated in a way, we sort of anticipated as an organization well where the market's going to go, and then invested in that. And that in itself was an accomplishment, meaning we had to invest while sort of trying to be cost conscious, invest in areas like decentralized clinical trials, like direct to patient shipments, remote monitoring, risk-based monitoring, to name a few. And in my mind, those innovations played out really, really well. And we have been in big part successful because of some of the work we did even pre-pandemic. So the pandemic, of course, accelerated a lot of this innovation, as was mentioned in the starting video today. But that's another component that I think played out well and probably something we should continue to do going forward.
No, that's actually a really good point. Gavin, informatics has also had a lot of momentum. You've been a big part of that growth, particularly with the work related to COVID. What are you seeing differently from your team?
Yeah, I think this is going quite across the board, not just in PI, but in the rest of ParExcel. I think certainly the last year with the customer intimacy has come a recognition of what creates value for our clients, and actually the corollary to that, what creates risk. And I think we are getting better and better at avoiding the risk through our delivery, but also focusing on what creates value and making sure that we are the right partner for our clients.
Yeah, that's perfect. And, related to that certainly is quality. So John, you're right in the middle of my screen. So what about your view? Obviously, you get a very different perspective, sometimes the real time and also the past all together at once.
That's right. And I think what I want to say touches on the past and it touches on the future as well. There's this old saying that you will buy with more peace of mind from someone you trust than you will accept a gift from someone that you don't trust. And I think what I've seen coming out of the past and going into the future, and for all the reasons that Jamie and everybody else said, is that there seems to be a more trust, and the trust in ParExcel, its ability to navigate, ability to deliver, etc. I see that trust growing, and I think that is probably the most important thing that came out of the change in our fortunes for me over the last year.
Yeah, I love that. Honestly, speed of trust is just such a great theme. That's a perfect one. And last but not least, Mike, you are in a much bigger role as you sit here this year than last year, including all of our HR and talent team, which is obviously for a people business. So, how about your view on where we're at and what we need to do for the future to maintain this momentum?
I think for me, it's the right strategy, the right people, the right focus. We're doing things differently. We're showing up differently, and we talked about kind of mojo when we rolled this out. And I think just my sense from being at Parexel for a long time, there's a real optimism and a real confidence in the company, both on the sales side, which we're obviously knocking out of the park, but delivery and all the functions. So I think as a group, we're working together much better than we have in the past. And I think with COVID, one thing that's I wouldn't say surprised me, but has really impressed me is the flexibility and the resiliency that we've had as a company. This is kind of an unprecedented event, unless there were CROs in 1918 when we had the flu pandemic, which there weren't. But we really, I think, as a company, we should be proud of how quickly we kind of pivoted and changed our approach, and how much we've kind of worked together as a team to be successful. So to me, that's the big difference.
No, that's fantastic. I just want to remind the group you can enter questions into the chat. I think Lori's actually adding in a quick note now, and we'll try and actually integrate those into the questions. But one that I had from sales leadership, Jamie, coming in, I'm going to take this one to you, is obviously to support this growth. We have to delight our customers. I mean, that's just critical for startup. So, this is a tough area for the whole industry. And what are we doing to support startup? And what can you share in terms of our commitment to focus on this area as a top priority and even a differentiator for Parexel?
Yeah, Peyton, good question. Startups been critical for the industry for years. I think it's become more evident that startup is more complex than it's been at any point in time. So if you think about it, it's not just approvals from competent authorities, it's not just ethics and getting contracts with investigator sites. More often than not, there's multi-parties involved, so whether it's pharmacy or radiology or others. There's a lot of external vendors, so there's a lot of training going on eCOA devices and other tools. So startup for, I think, the whole industry has become more complex. We are good, despite what people might think. We benchmark ourselves using KMR data. We rank extremely highly. Now, there is a lag in that data, both for us and for the industry, and we've recognized the need to improve. And that's really from feasibility and site ID, the really Dennis McMillan's area, now better aligned to clinical. Peter Janakos has taken on broader responsibility, and we've aligned resource to him, really dedicating our focus to startup at a country level. And many of you should be aware, we've also invested in Viva's SSU tool. So we'll have better technology, better workflows, better data and tracking. The evidence will still be how quickly we initiate and activate sites. And we've got to be better at managing customer expectations on that process, on when they should expect sites to be activated, and then showing, obviously, consenting and screening activity. So there's a lot of work going in. There's a lot of investment and dedication of resource, but we're going to watch it closely to make sure that we are performing at the level that customers would expect. We haven't always done that. We've sometimes set expectations that we've struggled to deliver, and sometimes we don't have those contingency plans. So if certain countries are not going to be approved, where are we going to go to continue to get the sites that we need to meet enrollment targets? Can we add sites in countries that are already open? That sort of contingency planning has to be part of the process and built in up front to allow us to at least meet or hopefully exceed customer expectations. But a big area of focus for Peter Janakos, Dennis McMillan's team, Deb Tatton, and myself. We're going to watch it pretty closely. And anyone on the sales side that would like to come and support us in startup, you're more than welcome as well.
Well, just like we're all in sales, I think we actually all have to be in startup to some extent, right? Because you never get a second chance to make a first impression. And I certainly have learned very quickly that the memories when there's a failure in startup are very, very long, regardless of where you end up. So it's critical to us. Anyone else on the ELT want to chime in on this important topic of sites and study startup? No. Good. I hear it as a key area of investment. I think this is going to be a great message for the entire commercial team. We have to be confident here and know that we're actually moving the needle in an area that everyone struggles with. This is obviously a critical one for us.
Yeah, and we have new tools.
Sorry, go ahead.
Peyton, we have new tools coming, particularly in feasibility and site ID as well. So that's going to be a big part of getting better, is setting the right expectation up front relative to the current environment as well. So.
Yep. Yeah, related to this one, and obviously we're going to hear from Greg in his keynote in a little bit. We're still working to finalize our 2021 MBA targets, but we know that they need to be market leading targets. So we know they're going to be bold. And at the same time, we're actually still implementing some initiatives like PRISM and challenges with resources that we frankly hoped would already be rolling at this point. So how can we be confident that we're going to deliver while we definitely feel like we're, flying the airplane and building it at the same time? I think that was a key question coming out of the sales leadership group. And I don't know, Greg, you want to talk about that one, and Jamie?
Yeah, I'll take it. When you look at where we're at, I think Peyton highlighted in her opening remarks about the large awards that have not gone, that are pre-contract. When I was preparing my keynote for this, it was almost therapeutic when I was talking about all the things that the momentum we have, and I was like, this target really is too low. We need to really increase it because we've got a fairly easy path to get there because of all the work that everybody on the sales team has already done. Think about the environment we're in. First and foremost, we're really turning the enterprise accounts around. We've got momentum there. We've got AstraZeneca, which should give us $100 to $150 million of increase in awards next year. Hopefully everyone else can at least hold their own and maybe grow there. We're making headwind in FSP. It's the best biotech funding market in my lifetime. But we've already achieved biotech funding through August as a record high. So just through August, we've achieved the best biotech funding for an entire year ever. So it's a great market there. So when you start looking at all of that, and as I mentioned on the pre-contract awards, we have about $1.8 billion of pre-contract awards, and that's what we're roughly expecting to finish there at the end of the year. So if you think about that's up over 30% year over year. So the hard lifting's already been done by the team. We just got to continue to maintain the momentum, and we should be able to easily get to in the mid 3 to upper almost $4 billion. So I feel really confident because of all the work this team's already done.
Wow, that's fantastic. Jamie, anyone else want to add on to that one?
Yeah, I'll add a little bit. Resourcing is always a hot topic, so it's probably the thing that comes across my desk probably the most of all the sort of escalations. And my observations are as follows. PRISM is going to be a very helpful tool in this process. It's essentially going to match demand and supply with our knowledge database. So who do we have on staff? What skills do they have? What availability do they have? What location are they in? But it's really important that we get the early data on demand right. So we're sometimes requesting resource too early in countries that are not yet through the startup process. We're not going to need dedicated resource in those countries until those sites are initiated and activated. And I think we've got to be sort of very disciplined to ask for the right resource at the right time. If it just comes through the system in a sort of single block of requests, because that's very easy to do for people, it's going to create the impression that we don't have the resource. And in some pockets, we're struggling for resource, but the situation is one of growth. When we're growing at the levels that we are, with the amount of new business that's coming through, we have to match the right resource to that need at the right time. If we do it too early, then we have people that are not productive, and that depresses margin. Greg gets unhappy, and therefore we try to control resourcing. But if we can stage it at the right time, we get the requests in early to say we're going to need resource in Italy or France or Australia in December, that gives us enough lead time to look in the system to see if we have the resource, or work with Tom McGoldrick and the talent team to find resource in time for that need. So good planning up front, requesting the right resource at the right time, and then working collaboratively with whatever function it is. It's not all in clinical. A lot of it is in GDO and other parts of the business. It gives us time to find the right skills, either from the current pool of resource or through the requisition process.
No, that's an important addition. And while we've been talking, a couple more questions related to this came in through the chat. So let's take those. Given the importance of delivery excellence, how are we attracting key project leaders to ParExcel versus other CROs? Good question.
So I don't know if you want me to start and then maybe Mike. So Ben and Graciela, so as the people that are responsible and most close to resourcing talent, even before this call started today, there were CVs coming through for people to join the organization. Part of it is that there has to be if you want, a push-pull. Quite often there has to be a reason for them to want to leave their current employer, and there has to be an attraction to joining ParExcel. And compensation's an element of that, but it's generally a smaller element. It's more about the culture, the opportunity, the role, the people that they're working with. And I think we've started to turn that around fairly well, where ParExcel is seen as a rising force. Obviously, the sales numbers reflect that we've done very well in the business. Being able to articulate that, show the wins, show the collaboration between sales and project leadership, clinical and data and other functions, allows us hopefully to attract talent in the market. One of the challenges we're seeing is that some of the senior leaders in project leadership are tied into non-competes in certain geographies. And that's obviously something that we're trying to work through. So that's created a longer lead time to bring in particularly the more senior people. We also have to develop project leadership talent from within. So whether they're coming from the clinical side or other parts of the business, I think we even have people coming from commercial back across into project leadership. We'll continue to boost that group of seasoned project leaders that are capable of delivering within our organization. So I think we've made progress. It's definitely something that's on my mind, and Ben and Graciela and others, is continuing to add talent in those teams. And we filled up that senior structure pretty well, from promotions, but also some very key hires from the outside as well.
Right. But you may also make a good point. It's all of our jobs to help recruit and attract talent to ParExcel. And obviously with our entire industry growing, like Greg was describing, it's even more important. Mike, did you want to add anything to that one?
Yeah, I think, thanks, Peyton. I think Jamie hit on a lot of points, and you just did on your last one. We are seeing a lot of competition for good talent. Our whole industry is in a bit of a talent crunch. For our part, Jamie touched on, it's retention, it's developing internal talent, it's external referrals, it's aggressive use of sign-on bonuses. We're basically turning every knob and dial we can turn to get good talent in. I will say, I think our most successful hires tend to be referrals from internal people. So if you know someone who's talented, share it and let us know, and we'll reach out. We are doing a lot of proactive communication with people who left the organization, 3-4 years ago, and actually quite a few are coming back. So it's an area where we're spending a lot of time and a lot of resources to get the best talent in for the company, but we need everyone's help. Lastly, and we'll touch on this more through the presentation, but we're also looking at incentive compensation, and we're trying to make sure that we have the best incentive comp in the industry, and really make ParExcel a company where people are looking to join.
Well, thank you, Mike. Thanks for bringing your new perspective also, to the team. Another question that just came in. This is actually a good one. It kind of relates actually to Greg, some of the things that you're going to talk about in terms of the market landscape. So maybe you should start with this one. Who do you consider to be our biggest competitors? Is it the biggest competitor group? Is it the mid-sized CROs, Syneos and PRA? Is it the lab-associated ones, Covance, PPD, IQVIA, or alternative is actually groups we're partnering with like CVS and Walgreens? What is your feedback on how you view both our immediate competitive landscape and then we can also talk about the broader one?
Yeah, I think it depends on the area. If you look at FSP as an example, obviously PRA and Quintiles and Syneos, I think, are probably the three strongest in the market. If you look at biotech, Syneos is strong. You got MedPace, which is focused solely on the biotech, and you have obviously the smaller CROs that, Worldwide Clinical Trials is an example. So it really depends on the market. So each time we go to bid, I think the key thing to know is who are the most likely strong players and what's the competition. Asia Pacific, Quintiles is pretty strong there. I was talking to another CRO just this past week, and we are 3 to 4 times bigger than them, and they're actually larger than us globally, but we're 3 to 4 times bigger than them in Asia Pac. So I think it's really important to know who the competition is and where our strengths are as you go to a bid.
No, that's great feedback. Anyone else want to add on to that one? Really good questions coming through. All right, I'm going to switch side to a different one. It's a timely one, unfortunately, because the world continues to fight against COVID-19. How is ParExcel prepared to respond to a second wave?
I can start there. So I think, of course, this is a very topical issue at the moment. We continue to monitor very closely, both using external data, but also the wealth of internal data we have within ParExcel. And I think, our team did a really good job sort of making sure we can track everything. And then I'd say our approach is loosely the same. So approach it the same way we did with wave 1, and I'll elaborate on that in a minute. But of course, tweak if there were things during the first time around that didn't work well and things that we could learn from and improve on. In terms of the general approach, of course, the most important guiding principle is safety and well-being of our employees and our patients. So that is paramount and goes without saying. And then it's ensuring business continuity. And I think, Mark and Fiona and Kevin and others have done a tremendous job working with us as an ELT to make sure that there's business continuity, that our plans are activated. We continue to meet on a weekly basis to review those as an ELT. So I think more of the same in terms of that, business continuity. And then, of course, also trial continuity. And I think the cross-functional group that worked on trial continuity and has done a tremendous job ensuring patient safety, trial integrity, data integrity. So more of the same with small tweaks based on what we learned the first time around, Peyton.
Fantastic. Yeah, I do feel like we're more ready, but obviously a challenging situation for our sites in particular. Anyone else want to add to that one before I give you another question?
Yeah, I'll add to that just a little bit. I think, just to elaborate and maybe pivot the question a little bit, I think this executive team and wider leadership is actually thinking about not just the second wave of COVID, but what comes after COVID. How do we start to think about therapies looking at long COVID? How do we get ready for the explosion in vaccines? How do we think about treatments for the chronic after effects of COVID? And I think that's a testament to a new way of thinking and centering around the patient. And I think that sets us up really well.
Right. Definitely. I've got a related question that just came in actually from Fred Lemoyne. As the impact of 2 to 3 quarters of pipeline development slowdown and distribution due to the pandemic settles in, due to the pandemic settles in, we have seen some decisions being taken around asset reprioritization. We actually just saw this over the weekend from Pfizer, and are tightening or funding of some programs. Thoughts on this and whether it will be a trend and how we can better help our customers? Jamie, do you want to take that one to start?
Yeah, I think that you're naturally going to see, particularly those companies that are making significant investment into COVID therapies or vaccines, reprioritize pipeline. Remember, Pfizer is a little bit unique in that they've gone essentially without government support. So many of the other vaccines are being developed with support from NIH or BARDA or some of the European sort of governments. So Pfizer relatively unique, I think, against others. But yeah, you would naturally look at portfolio, and potentially things like recruitment rates in diseases that might be impacted by COVID. So I think recruiting into some of the respiratory disorders, I think may be challenged in a COVID environment. And we just have to be sensitive as to the risk that we have in the existing backlog and pipeline. They're still going to spend the same amount on R&D as long as sort of revenue numbers hold within large pharma. Biotech funding, I think, is a real boost. They're going to continue to invest in R&D, and they're not necessarily held to the same standards of earnings performance because many of them are pre-revenue. So it's definitely something we have to watch, but it's probably a risk that is unique to individual companies rather than maybe a sort of system or market-wide risk.
No, that actually makes a lot of sense. Anyone else on that one? We have time for a couple more questions. I know the clock says 0, but we actually do have time for a couple more questions. This actually might be a good one for everyone to give just a quick answer. What does leadership see as the biggest challenge to the ParExcel team in 2021? And maybe John Bell, I'll start with you. You're right in the middle for me, so I keep picking on you.
Next time I'm going to move out of the middle slot to the side. I think the biggest challenge is to deliver on what we had committed and to deliver on what we are still gaining from clients. I think keeping everybody motivated, everybody pointing in the same direction and delivering to our clients, obviously we build our future success on that as well. And I think in this phase where we are now with all of the external influences, maintaining that focus and enthusiasm and driving towards that is probably one of the biggest challenges that we will face. It's a good challenge to have.
Yeah, it is a good challenge. That's a tough answer to follow. Okay, so Mike, we'll go your way and then we'll go around the circle and end with Jamie. How does that sound?
Thanks. I appreciate following John's answer. That was honestly, that was the perfect answer, I think. It really is. It's keeping up the momentum. It's handling growth well, honestly. But we're, the sales team, you guys are just killing it out there. And it's just getting the projects started, resourcing them properly, and delivering really well so we get the follow-on business. And keeping the energy and the enthusiasm. I think that the company, there's a real sense of energy and optimism that for those of us who've been here a while, it's been quite a while since we've had this kind of feeling in the company. So I think we just need to keep it going.
Yep. Sai?
Yeah, I agree with what both John and Mike said. I think we've been building very good momentum, and to me, the challenge is how do we keep this momentum going? That's critically important. So not take our foot off the accelerator, but keep the momentum going and do so while expanding our margins, which I think is a specific twist and a unique challenge. So building momentum with margin expansion.
Yep. Fantastic. Gavin, anything to add? It gets harder.
I notice it gets harder. Now, I think one of the things I've certainly noticed in the last year is this is an organization that can get things done and rises to a challenge. So I think as we grow our business, as we stay optimistic, I think it's being proactive and getting things done.
Perfect. Greg?
Yeah, I think maintaining the confidence. 2 years ago when I joined, I think most people, when we went into a meeting, had a "we can't do this" attitude because of past failures. And we really can do this. We're going to have bumps. Every CRO does. So for those of you who have been at ParExcel for a long, long time, keep in mind that every single CRO has problems with customers. Every single CRO has problems with staffing. Every single one has a bump in startup. We're going to have those. It's the confidence that you display to the customer that we're going to get through this when those bumps arise and managing those expectations. So keep in mind that we can do this. When bumps arise, we will overcome them and have that confidence.
I love that answer, Greg, because it's a perfect message for our commercial team in terms of a challenge of where we can all make a difference in showing that confidence. I know we're at time, but Jamie, any final thoughts on this question or more broadly?
Yeah, I think the team has summarized it really pretty well. The things I'm most focused on, if you'd sort of listened to me over the last sort of few months, are some of the big change management initiatives. So new systems, new tools to help us better manage at scale. So for me, particularly Prism is important, CTOR, the work we're doing with Viva in both ETMF and SSU. If we can drive those through to get the utilization and benefit that we expect, including change management, people have to use those tools, we're going to be set up for that consistent delivery at scale. And that's really where we've sort of failed in the past. We've had periods of growth and then weren't able to then deliver against that, whether it was resourcing or planning or startup or whatever it was, caused us then to hit a bigger bump in the road. And as Greg said, we're going to have bumps in the road, but rolling out the new tools, getting the adoption, getting the change management will minimize those bumps and allow us to deliver better at scale. That's the focus for me going forward.
No, that's fantastic. I want to thank this group. This time went really, really fast. We'll be able to pick up on some of these conversations later today when we're in the leadership breakout sessions as well. And next, we're going to go to a customer video, and then we're going to turn it over to Greg. So thank you all.
Ultimate goal, which is not so far away now, is to successfully launch tafasitamab to patients in need. It's a very innovative antibody that's focused on delivering real value to patients suffering from diffuse large B-cell lymphoma. And part of the partnership that we have with Parexel is to deploy a very innovative real-world data approach towards, filing tafasitamab. Given where we are in our growth trajectory, we need to rapidly expand our capabilities across multiple domains: data management, regulatory, clinical operations, biostatistics, and the list keeps going. And Parexel is our partner of choice because of the rich host of strengths that you bring to the table. And it's not just the skills, but the generosity and manner in which you partner that is very compelling to me personally. I'm very grateful for it. We've had tremendous momentum at MorphoSys over the last year. I'm happy to share that we have a precedent-setting second-line indication for Monjuvi, humanized monoclonal antibody for relapsed refractory DLBCL. And we also received a 2A designation, a very positive designation from the NCCN Guideline Committee as well. Parexel was a key partner to MorphoSys. As I said, the development process is a arduous one. It's a chain of cascading events that are interrelated, and Parexel was instrumental, almost all along the way, with regulatory advice, guidance, as we thought about a synthetic control arm to compare our open label study against. I think Parexel has, fine-tuned their approach and truly take a customer-centric view on how best to engage with biotech. And we are a proud emerging player in the immuno-oncology space. And Parexel understood who we are from the very beginning. I think they invested in getting to know us personally. And then they, through that relationship capital, helped, bring their best minds, their best brains to the task, knowing how challenging it would be. The first second-line indicated therapy in a highly virulent cancer, relapsed refractory DLBCL. What this means is that for patients who fail their initial line of treatment, there are very few options left. right? 30 to 40% of DLBCL patients have this fate. They don't respond well, or they're suboptimal responders to first-line R-CHOP treatment. So when they're given not just a horrible diagnosis, right, but also the bad news that they failed first-line therapy, what these patients need the most is hope. And what Monjuvi provides for the first time in a long time is hope for these patients who have no other solutions in the second-line space. I'd like to take a moment to thank the entire Paraxel community. It takes a village, right? We come from a place of humility at MorphoSys, and we partnered with the best partners. And Paraxel was at the top of the pyramid. We are launching a program through a pandemic. I understand the implications of a pandemic on clinical trial execution. And given the role of Paraxel, helping not just MorphoSys, but companies like MorphoSys, across the globe, in executing these trials through what is probably the worst public health crisis we've ever experienced as a global community. I want to look the Paraxel team again in the eye and urge them to power on, to push forward, to continue to overcome, because what you do has a direct implication to the lives of patients. What you do directly and indirectly matters, not just to patients, but their children, their spouses, their parents, their friends, their communities. At the end of the day, our common mission is to improve patient lives, to improve patient outcomes. Fundamentally, what all of us are doing, you at Paraxel and us at MorphoSys, is to inform real-world clinical practice towards the betterment of patient lives, right? To the betterment of patient lives. So to have a partner that has the exquisite ability to access, to engage, and to have meaningful scientific exchange and discussion with stakeholders that matter, who ultimately have the same purpose of bringing patients to a better place. So I applaud the approach that Paraxel has taken. I look forward to, again, a continued dialogue and partnership as we jointly engage all of these stakeholders and jointly combine a common passion to a common purpose.
Good morning, everyone. Thank y'all for having me. Let's jump into the presentation here at the sales conference. So what a year. Been an incredible year. Everybody joined together. So let's talk about that. We created a one-of-a-kind voluntary approach to the pandemic, which helped save jobs, really shows some of our core values that we care. We made sure we built up a lot of cash to weather this COVID storm. Everybody, salespeople, Josh Shiflett and his team in collections, and receivables, the customer delivery people, we were able to do a strong collections and get our receivables in the best shape they've been in a while. Despite a challenging market, we grew our MBA by over 20% as projected, and we continue to take market share. And we're getting ready to roll out and on a more permanent basis, a innovative work from home model. And obviously during the pandemic, we were very creative and were able to quickly transition to a work from home model and continue to deliver for our customers. And the year's not even over yet. Next slide. So I'm going to go through a couple of quick slides, and these slides are going to talk about how are we doing about getting to average. If y'all remember last year, I kept focus, let's get to average, let's get to average. And we're also have even some preliminary numbers where we think we may end up in 2021 and show that journey not only from last year to this year, all the way through to 2021. So let's jump right into it. Next slide. So let me orient you to these slides. We're going to be focusing on, all of these will be a June 30, 2019 comparison to June 30, 2020, and then we're going to switch to calendar year as we focus in on calendar year 21 at the very end. So let's start with MBA growth. June of 19, we actually shrunk our business by 10%. Most of our competitors grew their business by average 16%. The middle guys there, Icon and LabCorp, sort of the median there is in the 12-13% range. We were down 9%. June 20, we're in first place. We grew our bookings faster than anyone, and the average, because of COVID, shrunk from 16% to 5% growth, and we are nearly 5 times, a little over 5 times the growth rate of the competitor average, and more than double the guys there in the middle. Awesome year. Really proud of everyone. It was just an incredible effort by the sales team and the operations team. So let's go to the next slide. Getting to average, book to bill. We were barely over 1 in June 19. June 20, we're at 1.3, which is sort of the new gold standard. We're not quite to average of 1.34 yet, but for the most part, we've effectively hit the average, because we're right there in the middle with LabCorp, PPD, and Icon, all in that 1.3 to 1.33 range. Next slide. How about revenue growth? Not a great picture. COVID hurt us. It hurt everyone, but particularly us, and as you can see, our revenue declined. But hold that thought, because MBA growth is the real indicator of what your revenue is going to do in the future, and we're going to show you what we think we're going to do next year based on the strong MBA we've delivered over the last 18 months and what we're forecasting we're going to deliver over the next year or so. Next slide. Look at the trailing 12-month NBA. This is total awards, just to give you a size, because growth rate is one thing, but MedPace has got a great growth rate, but they're pretty small. And if you look at the bigger CROs, in June of 19, we were basically a $3 billion total awards. This includes pass-through, so this is not just net service. This includes both pass-through and net service revenue. We were about $3 billion. We were about 20% below the next big CRO, which was Icon. We're about 30% below PRA, and we were about 30% below Syneos. So when you look at where we are in 2020, that fast growth rate in MBA is getting us caught up. We actually caught up and passed Icon. We are only 10% behind PRA and only 20% behind Syneos. So we are making ground up on all of the competitors, which is an outstanding accomplishment, and we think we're going to continue to make up ground in the future as we get to the slides on 2021. Next slide. Look at the projections for 21, and again, this compares to calendar 20 to calendar 21. And again, this is total NBA, including pass-throughs. Net service revenue is going to have to grow a little bit faster than total, because we had a large COVID study that had over $190 million worth of pass-throughs, and we don't expect to have that repeat next year. So our growth rate on pass-through MBA next year is going to be much smaller than normal. So again, our total MBA next year, based on what we think is a very achievable goal, is going to be almost 12%, at or near the top of the growth rate for the industry. Our revenue is going to go from dead last and actually shrinking in 2020 to being up nearly 13%, above the competitor average and at the upper tier of the group. EBITDA, because of the cost measures we're putting in place, the efficiencies in our delivery model, the product sales tomorrow, is going to grow at more than double the rate of our revenue, all the way up to almost 30% at 28.5%. Now, the area that we have a lot of work to do, and I'll talk a lot more about tomorrow in the leadership conference, is a focus in on delivering gross margin expansion. If we keep doing the same old, we'll end up with the same old results, and end up with, even though we're growing revenue and growing MBA, we won't expand EBITDA margin. We'll just grow revenue and other costs at the same rate. So we've got to really make up ground. Right now, we're at almost 14% EBITDA margin, which is well below the industry average, 400 basis points that we got to improve. We're not even in close to the sort of the middle tier companies, PRA and Icon, which are really the most comparable companies to us. They're both in the 17.5 to 18% range. So we've got a lot of ground to make up over the next couple of years, and that's going to be our focus as we drive the budget. Our initiatives is to closing this gap. That's the one area on this slide that we've got to really focus in on, and I'll do a more detailed dive into that tomorrow. Next slide. What are the keys to success and how we get there? I really want to focus on not only that we've done a great job on MBA, but one of the things that we have to start really getting the discipline on, and I started this last year in Dallas with the old axe throwing at the target, trying to emphasize it's important to hit the target and do it consistently. And I want to show you how our competitors do. I chose not to show each individual competitor because each one of them would have a similar slide to this, and I thought the average did a pretty good job of conveying my thoughts. On the left-hand side, the average book-to-bill that our competitors have delivered over the last 6 to 8 quarters has been basically a 1.3 book-to-bill. Their standard deviation from that 1.3 book-to-bill is very small. Every quarter, they're right there at the 1.3. The only reason why Q2 of this calendar year jumped up was because their revenue dropped. Not that they really grew their MBA any faster, but because COVID, their revenue dropped and it spiked that book-to-bill up to 1.5. We are nowhere near that standard deviation. If you look, we're between 0.28 and 0.33x standard deviation there. So, 1.3 is what we got to be striving for every single quarter, quarter after quarter. We didn't get 1.3 a single quarter, and we either blew it out in Q2 of this year or Q4 of last year, calendar year, or we just did a 1.0 book-to-bill or less. So our job as salespeople and customer delivery people is to ensure that we deliver this consistency quarter in and quarter out. Next slide. There are ramifications to not delivering that. I looked long and hard for a competitor that missed its bookings target, and I only found one, and they technically came pretty close on the book-to-bill, but they had one metric that didn't shine well, and that was that their bookings actually declined year over year. So they showed a deceleration of their growth. They actually declined, and that was PRA in Q1 of this calendar year. Their bookings dropped by 9%, but most of the competitors on average grew bookings by 6% in the March 31 quarter. The day after they announced, or the day of announcement, their stock dropped about 10% a share. That wiped out $585 million of value to their shareholders. It was a really bad day. And as you can see, it took them a while to recover. They still haven't fully recovered through May, but they never got back to the 96. Now, COVID probably impacted their ability to recover, in fairness, but the actual drop was tied directly to this lower performance. So the message I need to give to you is that it's really important that we hit our targets and we hit them consistently every single quarter. There are ramifications to investors, but there's also ramifications to customers. So let's go to the next slide. Why is forecast accuracy all along the value chain? So it doesn't just start with accuracy on signed bookings, which is a book-to-bill. Let's go to accuracy on telling our team what we're going to actually win, what we are going to be awarded on a pre-contract basis. And as we look at our pipeline, what do we think and when do we think we'll close those future awards out of our sales pipeline? If we use revenue as a proxy for resource demand, it's really important to hit that resource plan perfectly. Why? Let's talk about that. If you look at the quarters, if you start out at September 30th, if you look at the quote quarter plus one, which would be the December quarter, almost all of our revenue and demand is going to be based on things that we've signed contracts with. That's the gray box here. And as you look at the existing backlog, most of our resource demands are going to come from backlog. But as you get out just to the March quarter, look at how the pre-contract awards, things that we've already been told we won, grow higher and higher as time advances. Next, look at how future awards, things that haven't even been awarded yet, but were in the sales pipeline, grow over time too. It's extremely important that we deliver an accurate forecast on two variables. Imagine a situation where we over forecast and we don't deliver the awards we thought we were going to do. In that situation, our revenue and resources are lower than we expected. So we come up short. We don't deliver the bookings that we thought, and as a result, we have too many resources. We hire people in anticipation of this work, and we have to impact people's lives negatively by letting them go, and it also impacts our profitability because we have excess cost. That's not a good situation for driving value for shareholders, and it's not a good situation for the employees that we've hired that we didn't need. It impacts their lives negatively. We don't want to do that. On the other end of the spectrum, let's say that we over-deliver the awards much better than what we had forecasted. Well, that is a great thing for shareholder value. Ultimately, it will pay a price in that our customers get upset that we sold them something that we can't deliver in the time frame they thought because we don't have the resources. You get customer satisfaction issues, which then ultimately results in lost business or a decline in our growth rate, and unhappy customers that we have to invest resources in to make remedy that. Plus, our growth rate ultimately gets lower, which then ultimately drives longer-term value decreases with shareholders. So it's very important that we get forecast accuracy, not only in existing backlog when we're going to deliver that, but when the pre-contract awards are going to start, and then ultimately make a call on the future awards out of the pipeline, when we're going to win those and when they're going to start. That's what the discipline we've got to get to ultimately deliver the value chain for our customers, our employees, and shareholders. Next slide. Areas where we see growth. Next slide. I want to talk about three big areas. Enterprise. Our story back in 2017, 2018 was we started having some customer satisfaction issues that really hurt our growth rate, and enterprise was in jeopardy of really falling off and declining, and it did decline. Biotech was an area where the market was growing great, and you've heard this saying, a rising tide lifts all boats. That's true. Everybody was benefiting from the robust biotech market, but we needed to build up our capabilities to actually take market share, not only ride the wave, but take market share. So that as we look at the environment we're in, both of those are still key ingredients. And lastly, growing FSP and consulting, particularly consulting's been hurt bad in COVID, accelerating that growth story as we come out of COVID and using some of our key resources, regulatory and health advances to really leverage those and grow our CRS services will be critical to our future demand. Next slide. So where do we stand? This is where we stood in 2018. We had a green, yellow, and this is Barry, but for our tracking purposes, it was a green, yellow, and red dashboard of where we stood with clients. And then we had clients who we really didn't have any standing with because we didn't have much access to. So in 2018, we only had 4 customers that we deemed to be in a green status. We had 15 that we had troubling signs that we needed to work on and fix. We had 6 that were bright red that were in deep trouble, and we had 4 that we didn't really have much of a relationship with at all. Let's fast forward to how great you, the enterprise team, have done since that, and the customer delivery team in doing that. And it really takes both. The sales team's got to manage expectations with customers, understand and have the finger on the pulse of what's really true in customers, because remember, all customers are going to have some customer satisfaction issues, but we've got to be able to ensure that we know what's real there. So managing those relationships, and the customer delivery team has got to absolutely ensure high quality service, low turnover, and if we do have turnover, our HR team's got to be able to backfill them quickly so that we can meet customer demand. So what have we done over the last 2 years? We now have 16 customers that we deem to be in the green, 12 in the yellow, so that's actually down despite some moving out of red. We're only down to 1 red, And so a lot of the red have moved into the yellow or green, and we have 0 that we have no relationship with. An incredible, incredible outcome by the team, and y'all should all be very thrilled. And let's go to the next chart, and you'll see why. Look at the results. We almost recovered all of that 2.2 billion. We went down from 2.2 billion, a 23% decline in June 19 to 1.7, and we're looking at 1.9 billion in the June 20. We've also won big deals like AstraZeneca's next year. That should give us 100 to 150 million of an increase. Everybody else does exactly what they did in this 2020 year. AstraZeneca gives us opportunity to grow that enterprise base, if everybody else just does what they did this year, by another 100 to 150 million. And I'm confident that many of you across the enterprise base will not be satisfied with just doing what you did last year. You want to grow that to a certain extent, and AstraZeneca is hopefully going to lead the way, and maybe we'll get 1 or 2 more of those that are going to grow 100 to 150 million year over year, and we'll be well on our way to hitting what we believe will be a reasonable target for enterprise. Next slide. Biotech. We are in a dream economy for the biotech team. This is the best environment in my lifetime, and in your lifetime. In August of this year, year-to-date biotech funding reached 59 billion. The previous record for an entire year was 58 billion in 2018, and we have 4 months still to go. An incredible, incredible outcome. And by the way, that's accelerating. Q3 was even better raise of funding than any previous quarter. So that funding is accelerating versus declining. Go to the next slide. You can sort of see the projection. So if you look at August of 19, biotech funding was 32.7 billion. It's up to 59 billion now. That's an 80% year-over-year growth year-to-date compared to last year. And compared to the record, they're projecting 83 million of funding for this year. That's a 44% increase over the best year in history. Talking about a rising tide lifting all boats, our boat's getting lifted big time by this environment. And again, the biotech team, I'm confident, will not only ride that tide up, but they're going to continue to take market share because we have the right team in place. Next slide. Look at this biotech wave. I just talked about how it's important to take market share. If you look at the companies with the biggest biotech presence, MedPace, Syneos, and PPD through June, their awards grew this amount. Now, I'm guessing Syneos and PPD's biotech grew at a higher rate than this because their enterprise customers probably didn't grow at these same rates. So they're probably north of these numbers, but they don't break out their biotech and enterprise the way we do, or even really in full disclosure. But clearly we are at the top, or in the top 2 or 3 growth. We're taking market share, and hats off to Jim, Anthony, and his team there. Next slide. Areas that we want to grow. FSP, I really want to focus people on this. FSP creates value because it's very sticky in business. It renews. It's hard to pry that business away from someone. Look at PRA. Almost half of their revenue is coming from FSP business. Syneos, about 20% of their business is coming from FSP. IQVIA, about 25% of their business is coming from FSP. For us, it's only about 10%. We've got to grow there. So what do we need to do? We got to know when FSP relationships are up for renewal. We need to know that 12, 18, 24 months in advance. It takes a while to start laying the foundation to be prepared for a good RFP defense. Customer intimacy, knowing those customers' pain points. What are they upset with? And why would they be willing to change? And we got to craft our offering to pry that away from them. It's extremely valuable business in the long run, because if you win it and you deliver it properly, it's like printing money after that. The sales effort to do that is zero or near zero after you've won the business, and we deliver with strong results. If you do those 2 things, you win that business initially and you deliver strong results. Dating myself, it's like taking orders in a fax machine after that is the amount of effort. It's an incredible, incredible revenue stream. So we got to prepare an offering allowing easy and cost-effective transition and address our customer points. Critical area where we're undersized. If we grow and take market share, we should strive to be bigger than Syneos this time next year. That should be our goal. Next slide. High growth areas, consulting. I've already talked about this. We've been hit hard by COVID, so prepare for a post-COVID world in MedCom and regulatory. Regulatory is a strength of ours. We should grow, and we should be able to use health advances and other offerings as the tip of the spear to continue to grow that. Another great area that should allow us to grow above market. Next slide. Now let's talk about targets. Next slide. Last year, we set an ambitious target, and we came really, really, really close. We didn't quite hit the bullseye as pictured on the left, but we came pretty close. And again, I want to emphasize that we have not finalized targets for either the sales team or operations budgets. We're still working on this, but we feel that we need to do at least 3.5, 3.6 billion in awards next year to hit our operational path and derive the shareholder value we need to in 2021. And I believe we have a really good path to get there. I'll walk through in just a minute. But we feel good in that $3.5 to $3.7 billion range. So for purposes of this and this only, we're going to sort of pick 3.6 as a middle ground to talk about as a target. But before we do that, I wanted to highlight and remind everyone that I said last year at the sales conference that if we hit that bullseye in 2020, I would get duck strapped into a bull and ride it for an hour. And the good news for me is we didn't hit the target, so I don't have to ride the bull for an hour. But being a man of my honor and trying to acknowledge how good that y'all did this year, I'm going to go get on a bull for 30 minutes, let the team duct tape me to it, and I'll come back in about an hour or so and finish this presentation, and we'll show you some highlights. So with that, I'm going to pause, and Tom and I are going to go out to a local bar that has a bull, and we'll be back in a little bit with some video clips. All right, I'm back. I hope you enjoyed the video. I did not. I am in some severe pain, and I will probably have to file workers' comp with HR. So, Mike, you and I'll be talking later. All right, so I'm going to try to get through this slide, as painful as this is for me, but it should be no pain to you because this is an awesome couple of slides. So, on the left-hand side, people are probably saying 3.6 billion. That sounds like an incredible number. We've never done anything like that. There's no way we can get there. Well, let me tell you why I think it's a pretty easy target based on the work you've already done. You've already done it. You've done all the heavy lifting. So let's look at this. Awarded pre-contract in September of 2019 was 1.45 billion. And if you use that as a proxy to say, hey, how much are we going to do actually in 2020, the next year? We're thinking we're going to do at least 3 billion. So that meant we had $1.055 billion to go as of September 2019. Now let's fast forward to September of 20. Well, we've grown the awarded pre-contract. You've already taken it off the street to 1.81 billion. You've grown that by 25%. Now, we do have to grow the total bookings by 20%, but the lion's share of that's already grown at 25%. So at September, you're going to would have to grow the go-get, the piece that's not been awarded yet, by 15%. Pretty hefty target still, right? Well, guess what? The good news is based on where we're seeing December is going to come out, go to the right-hand side. It gets even easier. At December of 19, we had an incredible signature quarter in that fourth quarter of last year. So we had an incredible signature piece. So we actually lowered our awarded pre-contract down to 1.24 billion. So we increased our go-get all the way up to 1.76 billion. Right now, we are projecting that our December 20 awarded pre-contract pool to go get is going to be 1.7 billion. Leaving $1.890 billion or call it $1.9 billion to go get. That's only a growth rate of 7%. The industry is growing at 9% next year. So if we grow below the industry average on the awarded pre-contract at only 7%, especially in the biotech environment we're in that we just talked about, particularly given AstraZeneca fuel that we've got with the Solaris project and the work that Chris is doing in FSP, 7% is really reasonable a piece to grow. Now let's go to the last slide. What do we have as a pool to go drive that go get? Our pipeline, the work you've already done in building this pipeline, is up 15%. So if we get the same hit rate, the same customer satisfaction, the same quality proposals, the same quality bid defenses, and we win at the same rate we did in 2020, that go get should grow by 15%, not 7%, because we've already got a pipeline in which to go get it that's up nearly 15%. And we're maintaining that pipeline because look at the proposal volume. If you just look at the quarter ended September 19, so this is just one quarter's worth compared to the quarter of September 20. This is the stuff that's filling in that that pending pipeline. We're growing that by 13%. So all indications are that we're doing an incredible, incredible job of setting ourselves up to go get that extra 7% growth rate of the go get. And one other thing to keep in mind, every year we do about 750 million of change orders. So if you really want to start building up to the 3.6 billion, you got about $1.8 billion of already awarded. You got 700 million coming in change orders, so you're at 2.5 billion. That gives you about a $1.1 billion go get. You got a huge pipeline to go get it. You got huge proposals to do it, and well below industry growth rates should allow us to do it. Now we got to go get those off the street in the first half so we can sign them, but it's there for our taking, and I'm confident in each of you that you'll do it. And with that, I end my presentation. Thank y'all very much for having me.
Hello, my name is Cameron Ansari. I'm the Vice President of Clinical Development Operations at Seagen, formerly known as Seattle Genetics. It's a pleasure to be with you today via recording and happy to share my perspectives on the strong partnership that we've had with ExecuPharm throughout the little over 2 years that we've been working together. As I think about our focus on oncology and where we've come from in the past 2 years, going from one marketed compound to 3 with others that are coming in the hopefully very near future, the partnership that we've had with ExecuPharm through the FSP model has allowed us to continue to scale our organization, to work effectively with our partners, to be able to work within our systems and processes and continue to grow to meet the needs of our thriving portfolio. And we've built this partnership together based on trust, transparency, and effective communications across along the way. The growth of our partnership continues to grow with our portfolio, but the true strength of our partnership continues to strengthen through the difficult times. And certainly 2020 has given us a lot of difficult times. And throughout this period of time, we've continued to collectively think about the portfolio, think about the patients that we're serving, and to really work together very collaboratively to meet the needs of the studies throughout this period. And for that, I'm immensely grateful and appreciative of the partnership that we have together. It's certainly very easy to come into a partnership when there is a lot to do together in the portfolio. There are few partners that I've had the opportunity to work with that have stepped up from the beginning when we were a small company with a few studies and were able to help us to get our functional service provider model running. And ExecuPharm has been that type of partner to us. And for that, very grateful. Thank you again for giving me the opportunity to share my thoughts with you and look forward to continue to collaborate in the years to come. Thank you.
we're seeing payers get more engaged in decisions around coverage. I think that there's going to be probably legislative changes that empower payers more to make decisions around coverage and pricing as well. And I think that, you know, the use of real world evidence to help guide those decisions is going to take on increasing prominence, not just the payers trying to make use of this kind of evidence generation to better inform their coverage decisions, formularies, outcomes-based contracting, but also sponsors who are developing products needing, both as a practical matter, you know, in the commercial marketplace, but also potentially as a regulatory matter if we see legislative changes that change the construct of how products get priced by Medicare in particular and Medicaid programs. Sponsors are going to need to do more evidence generation in real world settings to help demonstrate the value of their products in those environments. And this is going to become, these kinds of data approaches are going to become how I think they ultimately demonstrate and generate that evidence.
Yeah, I agree. Scott, you said it perfectly as well, using a proxy perhaps for the compendia that were developed in oncology, which is now NCCN, really in terms of the standard, and that being a model of what we might see in terms of how real world evidence is used and deployed. And ultimately the benefit for patients is if we can actually see patient reimbursement and reduced co-payments tied to some of those outcomes, right, so that patients really do truly have access to the best care option given their specific need.
Completely agree with the comments that both Peyton and Scott made. Certainly, maybe less from a patient perspective, but more from a drug development perspective, this commercial influence is having a profound impact. You know, I've been doing this for almost 3 decades, drug development that is, and recently, you know, we had for the first time a client decided to stop development in phase 2 because they didn't really see a path to reimbursement. You know, typically in phase 2, clients decide not to go ahead because of safety reasons or lack of efficacy. It's usually not a commercial consideration. So it's having a profound impact all the way up to the early development stages. So,
well, that's a good point, because real world evidence might help us be able to better identify those true unmet patient needs, right? Which then would support a product advancing and hopefully being appropriately reimbursed. Well, it's hard to follow Greg and Jamie. Those were fantastic updates. And I know the support we have from Jamie, Greg, and the leadership team has really been essential to our momentum. It's a perfect setup for this next very fast-paced around the world session. And there are several important lessons learned from this past year that I think really frame up this section. First, we are in a great and exciting industry that's in an industry that's frankly more important than ever. Jamie really echoed that. And then our strategy is working. And while I know it still feels like we're building the airplane while we're flying it, the growth and the success this team is delivering is really creating the energy and growth mindset for all of ParExcel. So 3 big lessons learned for me. Number 1, speed over perfection. Our COVID wins have been a rallying cry for the entire company to come together in new ways, innovate together, make a difference in all of our lives. Number 2, the value of partnership and teamwork. We're really seeing the importance of energy and that winning mindset, rowing together, one boat, and each of us taking whatever role is needed, frankly. We've seen the value of our differentiators and our expertise, like our consulting leaders, coming together in new ways to support growth. And then lastly, I think the patient focus changes everything for us and for our customers, perhaps more now than ever. Many of our biggest wins really have come via video presentations. And yet the patient focus and how we bring the patient into that experience changes how we feel to our customers and to each other. So next, I want you each to be able to hear from some of our leaders across biotech, enterprise, consulting, and commercials to really share more examples of our strategy and our success in action as we build upon this foundation. I'd like to start first with highlights from our biotech team. Before I hand over to Jim Anthony, head of biotech, not only is he my favorite rower, but the biotech team had an incredible year this year, despite the challenges of COVID. Growing biotech gross signed MBA 19% year over year, so just shy of $1 billion. With that, let me turn it over to Jim.
Thank you, Peyton. And it really was a remarkable year and an amazing year of global achievement. Parexel Biotech was able to add over 200 new customers last year, while also gaining important repeat business from over 300 returning customers. All of that while processing over 7 billion in new proposals. We couldn't have done it without a global effort and a complete team worldwide. So I want you to be able to hear from some of those leaders across our global team. And first, I'm going to turn to you, Brian. First of all, Asia Pacific had just a phenomenal year. The year-on-year growth of signed new business contracts was 2 times the year before. So I'd like to hear from you a little bit on how did your team achieve that and what did you learn?
Okay, thank you, Jim. First of all, really thank you for offering me this opportunity to express my appreciation to the people who ever contribute to the phenomenal FY20. To answer your question regarding the key factor for this successful, my answer remained the same like last year in dollars, people. People is still the key factor for our success, especially in the resource relative challenge region like APAC. However, I would like to add one more key word this year. People was hard. I still remember one of the slides last year, quote from Maya Angelou. People will not remember what you said, but how you made them feel. Client will not remember how many SBUs involved to their study or which SBU you belong to, or even your role or responsibility for the study. But ultimately, they do remember one thing and one thing only, we are from Parexel. So back to your second question, what do I see in the future? From my humble opinion, I would believe our future will be decided on what we do today, especially under such high uncertainty environment. We need to work with our client even more closely to keep aiding our value through entire journey with open-minded heart together. Thank you.
That is so great, Brian. Thank you for those reflections and that amazing quote from Maya Angelou. I think it means so much to all of us. Well, next I'm going to go to Annika on behalf of all of Europe, Middle East, and Africa. And this past fiscal year was one of not only restructuring and sort of repositioning, but a year that then ended with so much momentum. So Annika, let us know, how did you do it and how is Europe looking for the next year?
Yeah, so in biotech, we talk so much about understanding the client needs and have tailored solutions. So for me, it was very important to have an organization that is close to the client so that we really understand them and we get first-hand information. So having the line manager staying on 1 or 2 or maybe 3 accounts got them to that position. Also having smaller teams so that they could have enough time to really sit down and brainstorm or have deep discussions with their salespeople and how to go about an account or to a particular opportunity. That was really, really important. Secondly, I think we had got a lot of information from that. So we just understood we had to be the change agent in the organization to drive the change, to drive the things that we're saying to the client that we're going to do. So there has been a lot of hard work from everyone in Europe. So I'm really, really proud and happy that the team worked so diligent on being that change agent and having all these discussions internally about how do we organize ourselves around a client deliverable or a client timelines or things like that, and not think so much about our own processes. So that was 2 key learnings, I think, that really drove the momentum. On top of that, we started to see some really good wins. We started to see repeat business coming in. Client that worked with us in phase 2 now wanted to talk about phase 3. We got awards from biotech companies that we hadn't worked with before. And on top of that, we had, of course, the some strategic partnerships coming our way. So that was a really good witness that we were on the right path. And I think for this, for the next year, the Challenger training, for me, that's just a natural step into what we just started. So I'm really excited about that. And I think there's so much more that we can do in Europe and also globally with that training. So I'm really hopeful and excited.
Excellent. Yeah, and I think we're all looking forward and already diving into that Challenger training. So thank you to Annika, to you and your team for so much transformation and positive change. Next, I'm going to go to the newest member of our sales leadership team, Vishy, based in Bangalore, India. Vishy this year started off with so much momentum and energy with the symposium, and then such a building year for you in India. Give us some of your reflections early in your Parexel leadership career.
Thank you very much, Jim. Honestly, this is the first time I have attended the Parexel flagship event, the symposium. And honestly, it was a real flagship event in a true sense, with Peyton, yourself, Graciela being here to demonstrate the strategic importance of the region. Then we had the DCGI personally flying in from Delhi to attend the Parexel event. That had given the entire spectra of the biopharmaceutical companies who have attended the symposium on the level of commitment and the reinforcements that he's trying to do on the clinical landscape for India. Coming to your second question on how do we see the growth, I think I am very excited about the growth in India. The pandemic, of course, has limited our abilities to go and meet the customers in person because it's just very contrary to the Indian culture where we try to have a lot of conversations around over a cup of tea, which is we basically called it as chai pe charcha. We somehow miss that. But however, I think the team in India, which is Shavik and Minaj, are doing a phenomenal job in trying to go and reach out to the customers using telephones, engaging them via the Teams network, using digital media to go as close and as effective as possible. Now, one of the interesting things or the areas that we have seen in this phase is the regulatory and access, where we have got significant success. And one of the success that has come very close to me in this short period of time is Dr. Reddy's. I think we have signed off a large program with Dr. Reddy's for their entire biosimilar portfolio, and which is a very large program for over 5 million, and it spreads over a long period of time. What's interesting is that apart from this opportunity, I think the repeat business coming on post conversation with our SMEs has been very significant. So we had, even the interesting part is we even had external referrals by Dr. Reddy's leadership about Parexel's capability on regulatory and access. Now, to how do I look at India's clinical business? I think I'm very, very bullish, and I'm bullish for four big reasons. The first is I think we have a full house now with Minaj and Shavik. It's a complete team. We are working hard to expand the relationships with the broader spectrum of clients and with across the service lines that Parexel offers. Our approach to sales has moved towards a larger consultative and challenger model of adoption so that we can unlock a lot more value for customers from the present assets that they have. And what excites me is I believe that the pillars of growing business in India would come from repeat business from the existing set of customers. So that's from me, Jim. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Vishy. And we're looking for big things to grow in India. And last but definitely not least, I'm going to turn to North America. And Jimmy, on behalf of the leaders there, Nate and Susan and Jimmy's going to give us a sort of a perspective of the North American region. It's such an important area for us. Over 50% of our sales and revenue in biotech come from that region. And even in the face of the pandemic, we were able to grow substantially. So give us some perspective, Jimmy, on how did we do it with such an amazing accomplishment last year?
Yeah, thanks, Jim. Appreciate actually being invited to the panel, sitting with my global colleagues and representing North America on behalf of Susan, Nate, and myself. I'm really proud of the team. I'm proud of all the teams here, but also if I think about North America specifically, with the ability to adapt so quickly. Overnight, our way of business, our way of working changed on a dime. And we already live in a very competitive market. So when you truncate the market and now everybody's going after the same COVID business, it's much more competitive. So the ability for the teams to adapt and stay hungry, stay focused, and stay energetic in the way that we engage is a testament to everybody, especially when we're so used to being in front of our customers, being on airplanes and hotels, and now doing it from our home offices here. All of our competitors were going at the same business, and we just had to overcome all the challenges and drive and be hungry to go after that business. Some of the things that I found to be really, I would say, instrumental to winning the business is the organizational support that we have. If I use two specific examples, one being Kinevant, which is a therapeutic for the respiratory distress syndrome for COVID-related diseases, and then also the Seqirus phase 2-3 vaccine program that we were just awarded. The speed that we have to operate at is like never seen before. Things that took weeks take days, things that took days take hours. For the Kinevant COVID study, we got notification of a potential protocol on a Saturday night on March 15th. We had first patient in April 15th, less than 45 days from that notification and less than 3 weeks of having final protocol. And it doesn't just take the business pursuit, it takes proposals, contracts, delivery, leadership to get us the resources we need in place. And the same is happening for Seqirus, our first large phase 2-3 COVID vaccine trial. And everybody is launching. We're marching towards first patient in November. SIV is coming up very soon. And it's all because of the support from all the different functions and the different leadership positions that we have. For the future, everybody's coming out of this. Our customers, our competitors, they're moving forward. So for us, we just have to lean into the momentum. We keep hearing about that. Lean into the momentum and continue to stay hungry and pursue business, because it's going to be very competitive moving forward, and we're going to have a lot of opportunity. So thanks for having me on the panel, and I'm excited for 21.
Jimmy, thank you so much. And I guess Operation Warp Speed is not only a FDA initiative, but it's also a Par Excel way of life. And really thank you to all those people who have supported us through that Warp Speed effort. I'll just close with, on behalf of all of our consultative sales directors worldwide, our inside sales group, all of the leadership, I think one of the things that I'm most proud of the biotech team is the diversity and the breadth of our team. We span, I think, something like 19 or 20 hours of the time zone, and our team worldwide has contributed to the success. And not only that, the harmonization of the team worldwide has been a big part of our success. So thank you on behalf of Par Excel Biotech. Peyton, back to you.
Thank you, Jim, and a shout out to our entire biotech team. The progress is really unbelievable. It's a fantastic growth story for us. Now, let's shift to enterprise. And I'm delighted to welcome our 3 global enterprise leads, Connell Burgess, Oliver Furman, and Terry Karcher, to join me. This time last year, we were struggling across many of our large pharma relationships, and our new account leader structure was still relatively new and frankly unproven. But now, for fiscal 20, we have really seen some incredible momentum across nearly all accounts. And during the pandemic, exceeding target and growing enterprise gross MBA up 17% year over year, almost exactly $2 million in MBA. Really impressive performance. Starting with you, Ollie, can you share some of the lessons learned with all of us?
Yeah, thank you, Peyton. The team is truly proud of FY20. You just said it again. I mean, we achieved almost $2 billion in cross-signed NBA. With that, demonstrated the 70% growth year over year across the portfolio of over 30 enterprise accounts. We increased our standard hit rate as well as the proposal volume by 70% year over year as well. So 17 is certainly a take-home number for FY20. In total, 7 accounts generated more than 100 million NBA versus 5 a year ago. 24 for 29 accounts are forecasting a positive 2-year CAGR for NBA with an average of 15%. I mean, these are more than remarkable achievements, but the team will not stop there. Outstanding, especially for the late summer months. The awarded pre-contract business in the previous quarter just blew us out of the water with 36% on top of the budget. We are well set for the calendar year. I mean, these numbers are fantastic, hugely motivating, and a credit to the vision, well, I should say the reality of the new Par Excel that we are bringing to life with our customers. And this didn't come by chance. Our with heart strategy and innovation messaging is resonating in the market. It helped to differentiate ourselves in the beginning of Corona, and our teams have shown great performances in the new normal, embracing new tools and selling strategies, and frankly, outperforming competition. So the head of vendor management of one of our enterprise accounts told me a few weeks ago, hey, you guys seem to do a lot of things right, when he actually learned about Parexel's signature of the MSA with Pfizer. Pfizer truly is one of our great stories this year. Our joint commercial and operational efforts brought us back on a growth trajectory in FY20, and we finished strong at 160 million net signed NBA. The team didn't pause for a second, but got the melanoma phase 3 study worth 55 million awarded in August. And with that, not only gained ground again in the oncology TA, but set this account up for strong future growth. For Bayer, we signed the largest contract in 1.5 years for Parexel for our ELIA study, $67 million. ELIA is generating 2 billion annual revenues in ophthalmology for Bayer. So this study is absolutely critical to promote the market position and ensure future growth. Sanofi, you may be surprised to hear that we have over 900 employees in FSP on this account today. This is a strong foundation, and the team is very close to open up additional doors here, following the breakthrough in the early phase business this year. On Novartis, we have more than 400 colleagues in FSP as we speak. We won a large PV partnership and a few weeks ago signed the extension of our very successful CTA, Clinical Trial Application Hub. I'd like to finish this short round really here with Boehringer Ingelheim. I mean, just a phenomenal ride, finishing at a 150 million net signed NBA last fiscal year and moving this account to tier 1 level. As a sideline, crushing Icon Docs in their first partnership year with BI, probably the last. The award of the 25 million schizophrenia program a few weeks ago is the perfect stepstone in our efforts to generate the next breakthrough on this account. Handing over to you, Connell.
Well, thank you, Ollie. A tough show to follow, but obviously we'll give some updates on some of the other accounts. But before I do that, I want to acknowledge this has been the year of COVID-19. And I think we all know we're continuing to navigate through that, and just really proud of how the overall team has managed to do that. We've leveraged MS Teams, we've leveraged Zoom, probably lots of other things that we don't recall at this point in time to stay connected to our teams and, more importantly, to our clients. And, I'm very pleased to share that we've been doing over 1,000 client contacts a month as we navigate through the pandemic, which is remarkable performance. As we know from a new business perspective, 10 of our enterprise clients have awarded COVID-19 trials to Parexel. Some of these are highly, highly visible, and I'll talk about that in a couple of minutes. And as we look at the market through COVID, we're in a very robust market. We've managed to sell over $1 billion of business in the April to October time period, which is right during the pandemic, and that's 18% up on the same period last year. So really, really strong performance. We're now deep in restart activities across the portfolio, and it's great to see that our no going back messaging is really resonating and opening up significant strategic discussions with many of our sponsors. In terms of account highlights, for AstraZeneca, delighted to say that we've achieved close to 250 million in net signed new business in FY20. All business units at Parexel are active at AstraZeneca. And most recently, we won the Solace Phase 2-3 partnership and are very, very pleased, personally, I would have to say, to have displaced IQVIA, a remarkable result, one we're very proud of. Switching gears to Janssen, this is an account that's returning to growth on the back of very strong delivery. We won $130 million in new business on the Tremfya asset in ulcerative colitis, Crohn's, and psoriatic arthritis. And so a great foundation for us to drive on and deliver future growth on this very important account to Parexel. And then the final account I want to call out is Regeneron. We are consistently wowing the client with delivery on the anti-spike trials. And in relation to some highly visible data on a data cutoff recently, the client commented, and I quote unquote, "Please ensure the Parexel team knows they are making history. Congratulations." Just really powerful feedback And this was actually before the President of the United States went on a compassionate use protocol for that same anti-spike treatment. So just incredible performance. And it hasn't all been about COVID-19. At the same time, the Regeneron team managed to sell a $40 million asthma program. So again, another account where we've laid a very strong foundation for growth into the future. So we feel very good about the market. We've done a great job of navigating the pandemic, and it really feels like it's onwards and upwards from here. With that said, hand over to you, Terry.
Thank you, Connell. For a few additional highlights, I'd like to acknowledge and thank the many people who worked with us during FY20 to roll out a number of new sales and account management enabling tools, allowing us to be more effective in our commercial roles, including Salesforce upgrades, new financial reporting, and now we're kicking off the Challenger Sales Training, which is an exciting new program that will enable us to learn and embed new skills to optimize our selling strategies with our customers. Much more to come on that. We also conducted numerous initiatives to improve our engagement of the commercial team with the rest of ParExcel, including our partners in finance, HR, marketing, and delivery, to ensure a strong collaboration that will enable us to continue to build on the growth momentum in all parts of our business. And last, while we don't have time to call out all of the teams, I'd like to highlight and congratulate a few who had some very notable recent achievements. First, the AbbVie team, who brought in a medical imaging partnership valued at approximately $60 million over a 3-year term. The Daiichi Sankyo team, who signed an MSA and earned our first major award with a customer that we haven't done any significant business with in years. It was very exciting to secure a $21 million oncology study. And last, I'd like to acknowledge the UCB team, who had another stellar year of large NBA volume, but also extensive collaboration in the innovation space, really growing our decentralized trials capabilities and engaging with that customer in very new and innovative ways. Congratulations to everyone. And now I'd like to hand back to you, Peyton.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ollie, Connell, and Terry. That was fantastic. But thank you especially for the way that you've led together in such a transparent and collaborative way. Thanks. Our next panel will focus on our consulting portfolio as a differentiator for ParExcel. And I've asked Paul Bridges, Global Head of Regulatory and Access Consulting, to lead this panel and share some examples of the impact that we're making. Paul, let me turn it to you.
Thank you, Peyton, and thank you for inviting us to speak today. I get excited every time I hear about the business being described as a differentiator, and we've really felt that happen this year. An extraordinary year, but a very exciting one. And we certainly ended the year strong, and there are representatives of our service lines, our diverse service lines, to describe what the year represented, how we got to the position we're in today, and how we've been differentiating ParExcel. I'm actually going to start with the newest member of the regulatory and access consulting community, Leanne Larson, who represents the real world evidence and access consulting business. Leanne, a true differentiator for ParExcel. How do you see that working for us?
Thanks, Paul. Yeah, we had a really strong year in RWE and access this year. It was the growth was fueled by policy changes, by new and innovative therapies, and many other market forces, but the future looks bright also, I'm happy to say. The RWE market is growing rapidly, probably 14 to 16% per year. Health economics and market access is growing rapidly as well. So, we're seeing strong growth and a lot of potential. And I think in bringing together the RWE and access teams this year and working alongside regulatory, we've heard from sponsors that this integrated approach is really powerful, and it aligns to their own internal teams and needs and designs as well. And it gives us the opportunity to really drive early engagement in a much more effective way, connecting all of these pieces, regulatory, RWE, market access, and bringing those into the product development cycle. We can develop strategies around early engagement, supporting reimbursement, connecting throughout that life cycle in a really phase agnostic way. And it's been really successful. I think one great example of this of bringing these teams together and the perspectives was our collaboration between RWE and regulatory in working closely with MorphoSys to develop and implement a real-world evidence-based synthetic control arm. Our regulatory team then, including Amy McKee, supported the BLA submission, and ultimately the product was approved at the end of July. So really a great success story in an industry-leading area, and hopefully it just bodes well for for the coming year.
Absolutely, Leanne, and welcome to your team again. We started the year talking about, almost in theoretical terms, about why real-world evidence, access consulting, and regulatory needed to come together, and then the Morphosis project really became a poster child for that. And we couldn't have timed it better, and great success. And Amy McKee, I know you were intimately involved in that project, and thank you for being here today to talk us through regulatory consulting and how that really differentiates us, and congratulations again on that Morphosis approval.
Yes, so I think I'll continue on that theme. I think Morphosis is a great example of how we partner across RNA to get a wonderful product to market for the patients who need it. You know, from delivering the data from the real world data and evidence portion of the application to FDA to then devising the regulatory strategy really was a key partnership in getting this product to market. I think what I'd like to point out in regulatory is that what I like to call the 1-2 punch regulatory differentiator, because what this is as many former regulators are in the regulatory team, we can tell you what the authorities are going to say to you, and then we can devise strategies around it as the 2 in the 1-2 punch to really get to a successful market launch. I think what COVID has showed for regulatory is that we actually grew our business during this time. And maybe that was because people weren't able to conduct all their other activities, but certainly could speak to health authorities during this time when other activities may have been paused. I think that we had a growth in the breadth of clients that we touched across the both biotech and enterprise areas, which led to the growth that we saw in regulatory. We want to continue to drive that growth in our key areas with rare disease, oncology, cell and gene therapy, as well as in certain regions that will continue to grow, such as the APAC region. So we're very excited for the coming year to continue to grow our business and work across both RNA as well as into CRS, where we think we can continue to play the role of a differentiator by getting our toe in the door first and opening the door wider for continued partnerships with CRS and bringing trials to the company as well.
Absolutely, Amy. You use the C word, COVID-19, obviously driving a lot of opportunity for us in the end within regulatory and access, and a lot of clients coming to us now because they know that we are able to provide them with the regulatory intelligence, guidance on how to interpret real-world evidence that is being generated around the therapies for COVID-19. So driving a lot of opportunity for us. We've no doubt had to adjust to COVID-19 too, and I'll introduce Lynn Enser to this conversation. It's not all been good, right, Lynn? I mean, we've had to pivot very quickly in the compliance space where your teams are used to traveling on site to audit our clients, but responded well. So Lynn, tell me a little about compliance, how that's been helping our clients to respond to COVID-19, and how that might be even more important going forwards as we come out of the pandemic, perhaps.
Sure, I'm happy to. So obviously compliance encountered some headwinds due to being basically grounded, as you said, and prevented from traveling. However, we quickly pivoted our services to be able to match the needs of the industry while most people are not able to be on site. We created a desktop virtual audit program, which has been highly successful. Since April, we've completed at least 40 of these desktop audits for customers, and many of those are directed to clients that are in challenged areas. 2 of them were for big pharma located in India, which historically has been challenged with compliance issues and questionable quality in terms of the eyes of the regulator. So we really did pivot our services that way. Other areas that the pandemic exposed some vulnerability is in the supply chain integrity. So while we are supporting those efforts through the virtual desktop audits, we do anticipate that some of the challenges that the pandemic has placed on the industry will eventually result in some services for us and opportunities in the near future as the pandemic alleviates a bit. So I'm happy to share that compliance has recently refreshed our marketing materials. We are trying to direct our growth and marketing efforts towards those areas which we believe are necessary, some in response to the pandemic, pandemic, but other areas that we anticipate growth in, we are trying to direct those to be regionally based, either US, Europe, and India, or APAC areas. And most importantly, we're trying to direct those communications to address the life cycle strategic approach we have to selling Par Excel services. And by that, I mean linking the clinical trials to feed into the regulatory submissions and then to feed into the compliance support that's needed to actually manufacture products, and have those discussions targeted in C-suites or very high level where people can see those linkages and use a variety of our services. So even though this year was a bit difficult, we are anticipating a large bounce back, especially as the pandemic alleviates.
Great job, Lynn, and great job by your team. Really pivoted fast, and it's an area of the business that I really know because it's so involved in supply chain. Continuity of supply to the patient is paramount, and it's an area of the business that the C-suite really gets involved in and engaged in. So as the commercial team watches these videos, hears our messaging, I really encourage them to think about this particular service line as an opportunity to engage Par Excel at the highest levels within the company. And it's going to become more important. Thank you, Lynn. Susan, medical communications finished the year really strong. How did you do it?
Thanks, Paul. Yeah, it's been a very challenging year for MedCom as well. The crowded clinical trial environment, which was exacerbated by COVID, creates a lot of competition for investigators and sites, and it's essential to gain interest in the study and quickly secure agreement from sites to participate. Succinctly, educating on the study rationale drives recruitment and retention. Many sites and investigators are becoming fatigued with requests to participate in similar studies. And so there's an increased need at study startup and throughout the study to engage all stakeholders, patients, physicians, and patient advisory groups, and to drive effective relationships and recruitment and retention. MedCom's site engagement strategy helps to differentiate Par Excel and significantly helps our sponsors and importantly patients to make a difference in the overall workings of the clinical study, especially in light of COVID-19 and the ongoing need for more innovative and complex studies. We concisely explain the rationale for the drug and why it's promising. We establish unique study branding to attract patients and investigators. Early on, we obtained direct insights from both patients and sites in order to better understand concerns and decisions regarding participation so that we can elevate the voice of the patient and enhance patient and site interactions. And then we define and develop tools to support these interactions. We equip the CRAs with knowledge to confidently address questions from investigators. And we supply on-demand, interactive, and importantly, virtual investigator meetings and training, complete with expert facilitators to ensure active participation by all involved. Virtual is the new actual these days, as you know. Our communications solutions can help to recruit patients from diverse ethnic backgrounds, which is a real challenge these days, but can be helped by thinking about diversity from the start, understanding the community that you want to reach, and investing the time and the money at the beginning to develop targeted materials. We ensure clear communications at regular intervals throughout the study to keep all stakeholders engaged and motivated throughout, customized by audience, physicians, patients, patient advisory groups. And this includes thank you at the end of a study for their valuable participation, which actually is appreciated more than you might think. what all of this deepens the sponsors' relationships with physicians, patients, and patient advisory groups, drives on-time study completion, and demonstrates leadership in the therapy area. What we've seen is that the biotech companies have really appreciated the service, and it's affordable. And so we've seen that it is especially helpful with rare diseases and the trials that they're working on. So we've been working with many of the biotechs as well as enterprise clients.
Thank you, Susan. A job well done. And as I look around this sort of circle of videos, I can see the circle of drug development from manufacturing through to running the clinical studies, supply chain, of course, generating the evidence. And finally, Susan, as you said, the thank you at the end of the study when the patient is completed and they've received their medicine. So a very heartening expression of all that we can do in consulting. And it wouldn't be a look back on 2020 if I didn't reflect on the interaction that we've had with friends at Health Advances as well, as part of the full portfolio of consulting services that we are able to differentiate Parexel with. And I'd like to introduce Sheila Hegde from Health Advances to take us through some of the highlights of their year, where we've been working very closely with. Sheila, it's been quite a year for you and the team. Talk to me about it.
Oh, yes, it's been quite a year for us all. And I would say at Health Advances, it's been pretty dramatic because our business is strategy consulting. And so our projects are short term, they're 2 to 3 months on average, and we don't really have much of a backlog. What we sell in a given quarter, often we deliver in a quarter. So when COVID first hit, frankly, it was a very dramatic time for us, because there were probably 3 to 4 weeks where a lot of our decision makers were so wrapped up with just planning for COVID that they weren't responding to our proposals. So frankly, our revenue tanked. I mean, we were really worried those first few weeks because we had such a hit from COVID and we were very worried. The good news is we, just as quickly as we felt the hit of COVID, we rebounded. And I think that's something that we really want to make sure teams across Parexel know, is that we are so busy right now. Our business has come back in full. I would also say we're seeing more business related to COVID. So for example, we are seeing biotech companies developing vaccines come to us where we can help them with a landscape assessment, a revenue forecast. We're seeing a tremendous business on the diagnostic side. We've had several diagnostics companies come to us to assess needs around testing. We've had government agencies come to us to really understand where they should focus some of their dollars in terms of needs around testing again. And Paul, we've been collaborating too. I think about the podcast we did. I think about, the initiative we did to help companies bring the employees back to work and how to prepare for that. So I would say, knock on wood, that this has been an amazing turnaround and a lot of business opportunity for all of our teams. And we've been feeling it very acutely here at Health Advances.
Yeah. Great job by the Health Advances teams to bounce back in the way you did. I really view the way that you responded as indicative of the marketplace going forwards in terms of there was a little pullback. Investors were nervous about COVID, what it represented. And then we saw the influx of investment, right? And the desire to channel that in the right way, partnering with Health Advances strategically to understand which markets were open, how do they develop new therapeutics, and as we discussed on the podcast that you referenced, we believe that's going to stick now. I mean, the value of biotherapeutics, investment in biotech, has become very well known as a consequence of COVID. If there's a silver lining to COVID, I think that would be it. Certainly for us, right? And you've really responded to that.
We have, and we're seeing the investment's been dramatic, right? We've all seen that in the biotech industry, and we're seeing it across the supply chain. We're even doing diligences for PE firms around some of the supply chain companies, right? So thinking about producing the vaccine and CMOs getting ready and scaled up to do that. as one example, right? So there's been a lot of investment, and that really impacts the whole industry, the whole supply chain, many different sectors. And so I think that's exciting. I think, to your point, it just shows the value of our industry, right? You can't have an economy thrive without its citizens being healthy, and if infectious disease can really throw a wrench in that, as we've all learned. So I think the investment is a great sign, and hopefully, we will progress towards the treatments we need. And our teams are busy at work on COVID-related projects, non-COVID projects, because of that investment across the whole industry. So,
it's great to see both our teams partnering in that way. When you mentioned the diligences with the regulatory consulting side coming together with the health advances side to really help our clients figure out what they have in terms of value and making the most of that and the return on that, which is great.
Paul, I absolutely agree. And I think one of the unique parts of Parexel is the fact that we have not just a tip of the spear, but a multi-pronged tip of the spear, right? Because we've got regulatory, we've got medical insight, and we've got the commercial insight through health advances. And I truly believe that marrying all of those gives a very unique integrated perspective to clients. I don't see any other companies that can do it as nimbly as we can. Our teams readily, we know each other, we reach out to each other frequently, and really bringing a regulatory expert, a commercial expert, and a clinical expert on the same team, sitting across from the client's team, and really thinking critically, not just about a diligence on an asset, but how to progress an internal asset. What's the best clinical path forward? Really, what we have is truly unique and powerful. So I think, the more that we can do that, the more that we can sell that and market that to our clients, the greater value we'll add to the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. Here. And it's really heartening to see that our teams really now collaborate and can do those handoffs. Parexel goes in and can represent Health Advances, and Health Advances does the same on behalf of Parexel. We really have been able to develop that seamless delivery and sales model across our two businesses now, which is really exciting. So a really dynamic time, and as we reflected on the podcast, really a market that's opening up with lots of opportunity for our businesses.
Absolutely.
Great to talk, Sheila. So we'll speak again soon.
Great. Yes, great to talk to you, Paul. Thanks.
Thank you, Paul, and our consulting team. You definitely are a differentiator for Parexel and a key part of our strategy. To build on that, I've asked Luke, Chris, Simon, and Kushal to help us share how we are advancing other key aspects of our commercial strategy and customer-focused innovations. First, Luke, I have to congratulate you and the commercial operations team. We are at record levels of proposals, and importantly, we are seeing the win rate improve, including our more than 100 COVID-related wins. Can you share your view on some of the keys to the success your team is driving and how you're going to be building on that momentum?
No, thank you, Payne. It has definitely been an incredible year, I would say, and especially the last 6 to 9 months has just been, phenomenal. And I actually, as I approached this, I thought about what I said in October. And in October last year, we promised that we would make some investments in the commercial processes, and we did that. We've invested in bid intelligence. We're bringing lots of our pricing information from historical data to surface. We're using that to make more intelligent pricing and scoping decisions. We continue to invest in the Salesforce platform. We added in LinkedIn Navigator over the past 12 months, as well as investments in the pipeline reporting, which allows the CSDs, CRDs, the leadership to see real time where they stand relative to their targets. We've added proposal software. We've added PowerPoint software, all of these again to help improve our processes. And in addition to that, we've updated our template from a proposal perspective. So we're firing on all cylinders right now. And I think as we look ahead, we've done so much in a relatively short period of time. And I think there's a lot more we can gain from what we've invested in. And so I'm really looking forward to the next few months and seeing how we really leverage those investments and continue to build on our successes. So thank you, Payne, and thank you everyone for your support.
No, that is awesome, Luke. Thank you. I can feel the confidence too. Chris, let me switch to you. A key aspect for our growth is going to be expanding our FSP wins. What have been our biggest accomplishments this year, and how can we all support growth in FSP for 2021?
Yeah, thanks, Peyton. Well, the biggest opportunities and successes from the last year have been setting the big goal of becoming one of the top 3 FSP CROs when we launched. We created a new brand, we did a lot of marketing campaigns, and we created the initial strategy of both organic growth and cross-pollination. And that together has created up to 30% growth for the year. The team has done a fantastic job. And we've come together, all the different parts of FSP, and have grown. Moving forward, we're going to continue to do that. And at the same time, find ways to leverage and win big opportunities so that we can take that from the incumbent and really help feed top line revenue and succeed. So I'm really proud of the team, all of the work together. And I think as we continue to grow and work together, we'll continue to expand.
That's awesome. I know we've got big goals there, so we can do it, and we're going to do it together. It's going to be a great one for us to highlight as part of this meeting. Simon, let me go to you. COVID created a massive pivot for our marketing and communications team. What have been the key learnings, and how is your team building upon this critical work to support our commercial strategy and sales?
Well, thank you, Peyton. Yeah, it's a big question. It's an exciting time. They always say never miss an opportunity to learn from a crisis, right? We definitely had a transformational year. I think as an organization, we punched above our weight. Thinking back to the COVID-19 Resource Center, it was the first of its kind, actually, within the CRO group. And it was live at the end of January, actually before COVID-19 was named, or it was named as a pandemic. So some really great progress, and ultimately we were recognized as being number 3 or within the top 3 in the industry, which is fantastic. What did we learn? I think a couple of things. It was a huge pivot. I think being seen as a leader, from the beginning of the crisis was huge. I think also, really importantly, our patient focus as our guide has been really tremendous, and it's helped us to keep our positioning. We definitely pivoted to our strengths, initially with RNA, with podcasts and our resource center, but also a huge effort with trials. And we've pivoted then into continuing innovations, lots of great things. And I think finally there, we just kept communicating. So, communicating across our team really helped us move forward. I think in terms of the challenges, maybe we were a little bit slow from that, and we're really trying to push speed, agility, responsiveness, everything that we can do to help the team to deliver in this new environment. We're going to continue our We Care positioning. I think it's resonated with customers, it's resonated internally. We're going to do more on content and thought leadership. I think some really great opportunities here to focus on the strengths that we have as an organization. And I think, we can probably do more in terms of our therapeutic and scientific capability and staying relevant. We have so much great information. The challenge for our messaging is really trying to package all this good stuff together, and we're going to drive that forward to support the teams moving into next year.
Great. Thanks, Simon. It's an exciting time. And last but not least, Kushal, you're in a new role leading corporate strategy and innovation, which includes all of our partnerships. Can you share a few examples of what you're most proud of, to make sure the entire commercial team is aware of some of the work that you're doing?
Thank you, Peyton. Delighted to be on this panel. I think, as Simon mentioned, very proud of our patient-centric corporate strategy. I think the work we have done in the Patient Innovation Center, Tomorrow's Parexel, has really created a solid foundation for us to build on. I think on the innovation front, we are firing all cylinders. We have received 400 plus ideas on Eureka, so it's really coming from all corners of the companies. We are investing in areas of scientific data organization, risk-based monitoring, decentralized trials, but also have really targeted our acquisitions to innovative areas with Rome and model answers. As Simon mentioned and Luke alluded to it, we are also learning from the pandemic under our no going back framework so that these innovations become part of our new normal. I think lastly, I would just highlight, partnership plays a key role in our corporate strategy because we can't address all these areas alone. We need to partner with the best in class solution. So the two that I would like to highlight, one is CVS. We really started with them with the Health Agent subsidiary targeting patient recruitment. but now have branched out into using their Minute Clinic footprint, home nursing to address areas of COVID-19, migraine, flu vaccine, just to name a few. And our investment in partnering with MRN and Thread and other DCT platforms really paid out when the COVID pandemic hit, because we could easily pivot to this new way of working and have seen like a 3x increase in DCT proposals over the last few months. So very exciting times.
Incredibly exciting when you put all these pieces together and the work that all of you are doing. This was a fantastic panel actually to come together and really show how we're bringing it all together as one. And indeed, there is no going back. So thank you so much to this group. And thank you, really, all the panels have just been fantastic today. And I'm excited because now we're going to take a pivot ourselves and break into some small group discussions. These breakouts are going to be an opportunity to see and actually meet colleagues in a small group setting. Hopefully the technology will work and it'll feel like you're sitting at a small table together. And you can discuss the highlights from the day so far. The breakout is just about 20 minutes and you're assigned by number. And by the way, the ELT members can float to any group, so don't be surprised if someone pops in. And then you'll come back to this main platform. So if something happens, come back here to this main platform in 20 minutes for what I think is, at least for me, the highlight of the meeting, the Sales and With Heart Awards. So I'll see you soon. Thanks so much.
My story starts back in probably around 2007. I had an opportunity to play football at Syracuse University, American football. I was really excited and thought I had kind of paved my path in my life. And 5 days after my last regular season game, I was diagnosed with a rare aggressive form of brain cancer. And it was something that kind of thrust me in a completely new direction in life, that I thought I was going to make a living as a professional athlete. And instead, I went from living out this dream of playing sports as my job, as my career, to figuring out how I was going to make it through the next couple days, weeks, months alive because of the diagnosis that I had been given. It was really challenging. It was difficult to be in that room, in the exam room at 22 years old, and to have a doctor tell you that there's no cure for what you have. It shakes you to your core of, everything that you just assumed that you'd be able to do. Fortunately, I've been, I finished my treatments prior, several years prior to the pandemic hitting, but something that stemmed from that original brain cancer diagnosis was a more recent diagnosis of post-traumatic stress disorder. So part of me really overcoming my battle with brain cancer wasn't just physical, it was also the mental and emotional aspect. I was seeing, a therapist in person, and so that's transitioned into telemedicine and receiving, EMDR treatments for post-traumatic stress disorder, something that I had to learn to do electronically, where you develop a comfort level doing it in person and in a different way. But it has also provided me easier access to that care too. So there are certainly benefits. You think about patients that would traditionally have to travel to treatment, and it takes a significant part of their day. Now I can be ready for my appointment in a matter of minutes, and as soon as it's done, I'm back and I'm still in my office and able to live my life. There's been I think some positives with it, but it has been an adjustment certainly overall. The opportunity to learn from this is we can be more cognizant of a patient's needs, right? That I think before the pandemic hit, there was a hesitancy to provide telemedicine as a viable option for somebody, just as a regular standard of care. We can learn from this is that there's a balance, and that there's opportunities that we have really had thrust upon us that we can learn from and say, we can better, support the patients going through this care, and we can maybe do every other checkup in person and be aware of what that person is dealing with outside of their medical treatment. I think there's opportunities for us to improve upon, how we work with patients, how we treat them, and really provide them, options for what makes them feel most comfortable going through this process. It brings a smile to my face to think about it, how happy it would make me because of what it would mean for others that would hopefully not have to deal with everything that people deal with now that have my diagnosis. I'm hopeful that the day will come soon for hopefully me and many other people in the rare disease community where we can talk about the progress and the cures that we've found.
Now it's time for our favorite part of the sales and commercial meeting. It's the part of the program that's frankly even harder for me to not be physically together to celebrate. Last year, we started some new traditions to recognize exceptional results and contributions from the past year. This year, we have built on those, including the addition of our President's Club Award for the top 3 sales leaderships for biotech, top 3 for enterprise, and the top for inside sales. In addition to the awards today, we also have a special points grant for all of these winners. Before we start the first award, I think it's important for the entire sales and commercial team to know how very proud we are of this entire team and what you have accomplished in the past 12 months. You heard it in my opening comments, you heard it from Jamie, and you saw the competitive data from Greg. This team is now driving industry-leading growth and building the momentum we need to reach our full potential. And that took each and every one of you. So now let's start the awards. The very first award is our Rookie of the Year award. This award goes to the top performing Client Relationship Director, CRD, or Client Sales Director, CSD, in his or her first year in a role with Parexel. And we have 3 winners for fiscal 20. The first recipient of this award has been with Parexel for 3 years, transitioning from a project leader role. In her first year as a CSD covering Australia, Lisa delivered the largest ever award from an Australian biotech company in the history of Parexel. Due to her efforts, we have already won more work out of Australia than we've ever had before, and she's basically building a territory that was dormant, and she's doing it from scratch. She was just promoted to a director role. Congratulations to Rookie of the Year, Lisa Yao. Joining us to congratulate Lisa on this exciting award is her manager, Carolyn Chow. Carolyn?
Thank you, Peyton. Congratulations, Lisa. As the beginners of the CSD role, you did a really impressive job in the past year. We all can see your passion and enthusiasm on business development work from your hard work, proactive learnings, and determination. No one gets to be good at something without efforts. So you earned it. Thank you for your contribution, and let's keep up the momentum and good work. I'm looking forward to work with you together for more. Thank you, and congratulations again.
The next recipient of the Rookie of the Year award goes to someone who's been at Parexel for more than a decade, most recently as a project director. In his first year as a CRD covering Astellas and Pfizer, he finished number 5 on the Enterprise Leadership Board with $65 million in signed MBA. Congratulations to Rookie of the Year, Martin Tahachik. Now let's hear from Martin's manager, Leslie Johnston, on his exciting accomplishment. Leslie?
Thanks, Peyton, and hi, everyone. I'm so pleased to present the Rookie of the Year award to Martin. Martin joined our commercial team after previous roles at Parexel with project leadership and patient recruitment. And during his rookie year, he secured more than $47 million in pre-contract awards, more than $95 million in proposal volume, and 136% of his NBA target. In addition, during this time with Astellas, he secured 2 large asset awards, along with collaborating with them to finalize their corporate patient centricity strategy. Congratulations, Martin, on a fantastic inaugural year, and I know we all look forward to what's coming next.
And our final recipient of the Rookie of the Year award for this year is Brennan Munley. In his very first year with Parexel, covering West Coast biotech accounts, Brennan finished number 3 on the inside sales leadership, contributing to $369 million in proposals sent. Congratulations to our 3rd Rookie of the Year, Brennan Munley. And joining us to congratulate Brennan is his manager, Neil Butera.
Thank you, Peyton. Brennan, congratulations on being chosen as Rookie of the Year. You were one of 7 top-performing new hires in fiscal year 2020, so you should be extremely proud of this accomplishment. I knew from our very first conversation that although you had virtually no work experience, you had incredible work ethic and were going to be super successful. For those that don't know, Brennan was one of the top 10 collegiate runners in America. So while his first-year performance was impressive, I'm actually more impressed that he can run 10 miles during his lunch break and be back home for a 1 p.m. conference call. Congratulations, Brennan.
This next award honors our top salespeople and their contributions to our organization's sales results and commitment to the customer and organization. These individuals are appointed to the President's Club, winners of $10,000 each. We have 7 winners here, which is really exciting. First, our consultative sales directors. Here we have a 1st, 2nd, and 3rd place finishers. The 1st place Sales Performance of the Year award goes to Jeong-Won Jin. Jeong-Won covers Korea and delivered $65 million in signed NBA, delivering her largest awards with Yuhan and Samsung. The 2nd place recipient of Sales Performance of the Year award is Chirag Patel. Chirag covers New England and delivered $41 million in signed NBA, achieving his largest awards with Selecta and Sarepta. And finally, the 3rd place Sales Performance of the Year award in the Consultative Sales Director category goes to Sarkis Cherkesian. Sarkis covers Massachusetts and delivered $42 million in signed NBA, winning his largest awards with Epizyme and Fosun. Now let's hear from Jim Anthony on the accomplishments of this amazing trio.
What a great opportunity to recognize some phenomenal sales achievements in the last fiscal year. Just as a personal word for all 3 of these individuals, it's with great pride and I think great accomplishment on all 3 of their part that we're able to give these 3 the top salespeople of the year award for biotech. Knowing all 3 of these and having worked with all 3 of these individuals as I have, it makes it a little bit even more special just to see them on their awards. Having been in Korea just at the end of last year and working with Jeong-Won on some of her accounts with her and also just interacting and being there in Seoul with her. Sarkis, who's received the Rookie of the Year award last year and now is one of our top 3 performers. What an amazing effort he's made. And Chirag is just someone that I've actually known for quite a while now at Parexel, having worked on some accounts with him in the past when he was part of our Parexel consulting group. And it's great to see him be so productive on the biotech sales team. So from me and all the biotech sales leaders, just a big congratulations to these 3.
Next, our client relationship directors. Here we have a 1st, 2nd, and 3rd place finishers as well. The 1st place Sales Performance of the Year award goes to Maria King. Maria covers AstraZeneca and delivered $70 million in signed NBA. Our 2nd place finisher for Sales Performance of the Year award in the Client Relationship Director category is Laurie Williams. Laurie covers UCB and contributed an amazing $82 million in signed NBA. And finally, Enzo Giuliano is our 3rd place finisher for Sales Performance of the Year award in the Client Relationship Director category. Enzo covers UCB and delivered 144% of his signed NBA target. Joining us to highlight their accomplishments is Terry Karcher.
Thank you, Jamie. FY20 was a fantastic year for the entire enterprise team and for Maria, Lori, and Enzo in particular. For Maria, in addition to the large volume of signed MBA, she also had over 100 million in proposal dollars, helped grow the Compass partnership up to 30 studies, and was a key contributor to the large Solus Partnership Award to Parexel. Maria has a long history with AZ and consistently delights the customer. For Lori, FY20 was a breakout year for her after she'd moved over from project leadership to the enterprise team in the middle of the prior year. In addition to achieving 163% of her signed MBA target, she also brought in a large volume of proposal dollars and worked closely with UCB as they expanded a key asset into multiple indications with some complex studies. Enzo was also a strong contributor to the UCB team in FY20, not just with his NBA achievement and high volume of proposal dollars, but also with building strong relationships in the rare disease space, as well as working on a key submission program for one of UCB's leading assets. In doing so, he had more than 200 client meetings with UCB stakeholders throughout the year. As I noted earlier, it was a remarkable year for many of our enterprise team members, but I want to express a sincere thank you and congratulations specifically to our 3 award winners.
And finally, we will also be recognizing one of our market development managers today. This award goes to someone who's been with Parexel for more than 24 years and for the last 4 years in inside sales. She covers biotech accounts in Germany and Eastern Europe and contributed to more than $375 million in proposals sent. Please join me in congratulating Martina Doherty on this outstanding accomplishment. Joining us today to congratulate Martina is our manager, Neil Butera.
Martina, congratulations on an incredible achievement. I'm super excited to recognize you for not only an amazing year, but for all that you've done for Parexel for now almost 25 years. Your loyalty, hard work, and dedication does not go unnoticed, and you are so deserving of this award. Being a successful MBD rep is not just about prospecting, but about building internal and external relationships, and you've truly mastered the art of collaboration. You should be really proud of all that you've accomplished at Parexel. Congratulations, Martina.
Next, we have the Sales Team of the Year Awards, which recognize teams that work together to generate the most business for Parexel. First up is UCB. For the second year in a row, I am pleased to recognize UCB as the top performing sales team of the year at Parexel. Through governance, visibility, engagement, and delivery, this team has rebuilt trust with this customer and delivered nearly $300 million in signed NBA this year. Parexel has been a trusted partner of UCB and is constantly testing out new innovations, enabling us to outpace the competition. Congratulations to our UCB sales team for being recognized as the top performing sales team of the year at Parexel, including account leader Tom White, CRD team Art Ingalls, Catherine Chia, Yuji Fuji, Susan Lennon, Jeremy Hickling, Chris Parker, Lori Williams, Enzo Giuliano, and Janet Benakis. Commercial finance lead Brent Gray, business operations lead David Slack, pre-sales team led by Mariana Okuna, contracts team led by Lisa Howell, PCOE lead Holger Liebig, quality lead Amy Cameron, MPD team Marta Leon, Kathleen Mera, Jeff Roski, Yahan Chang, Zemina Valenzuela. Joining us to share some perspective on this amazing repeat performance is Terry Karcher. Terry?
Thank you, Peyton. I'm so proud of the achievements of the entire UCB team, which involves a large number of our Parexel employees around the globe. At the end of this month, we'll be celebrating the 9th anniversary of our partnership, so it's been a long journey with UCB and a very fruitful one. During FY20, the team brought in $328 million of awarded pre-contract NBA, so there is a large backlog of work to be done. We'll continue to grow and optimize the relationship with this important customer. I want to offer my sincere thanks for all of the hard work that goes into the partnership every day and wish the entire UCB team my heartfelt congratulations on this award. A fantastic job, everyone.
Our second place finisher for Sales Team of the Year in fiscal 20 is the AstraZeneca team. Despite the COVID-19 lockdown and not being able to continue its routine of being on site every week, the Parexel AstraZeneca team finished with nearly $250 million in signed MBA for fiscal 20. The team continues to leverage its positive relationships in early phase and access to open doors across AstraZeneca, recently winning the Solus Phase 2-3 partnership and eliminating IQVIA. Congratulations to the AstraZeneca sales team. Account leader Nick East, CRDs Christian Wagner, Jeremy Hickling, Abby Hanley, Diane Lee, and Maria King. Business Ops, Commercial, and LRMs Richard Mills, Stephen Latz, Therese Corcoran, Chris Nichols, Amanda Vendig, Mihai Georgi, Bogdan Naftanalia, and Bogdan Deku. MPDs Kevin Conway, Caroline Perry, Dawn Popova, Ranga Pinamini, Helen Todman, Patricia Armstrong, Jan Borgerman, and Catherine Wilson. Solution consultants Lorna Coward, Miguel Fuentes, Matthias Broschag, Michael Schwitzenberg, Matthias Cruz, and Becky Thompson, and PMO office Sharon Daly. Let's hear from Connell Burgess on the amazing efforts of this team. Connell?
Thank you very much, Peyton. Obviously, congratulations to the AstraZeneca account team for an excellent fiscal 20. Great to see strong activity in early phase, in RWE, in Parexel Informatics, and obviously the 2-3 part of the business. I think obviously capping that off with the Phase 2-3 Solus partnership win has been fantastic, achieving $250 million in new business in FY20, a great accomplishment as well, and really want to thank the full team, business operations, delivery, SG&A, the solution consultants, obviously the commercial team. So great performance, and thank you all very much.
Our next Sales Team of the Year award goes to the Parexel Boehringer Ingelheim team. Leveraging both FSP and full service models, this team has worked to make Parexel the #1 provider on an account that historically was dominated by Icon. The team delivered nearly $150 million in signed MBA and grew the account 111% year over year. Congratulations to the BI sales team. Account leader, Andrew O'Daly. CRDs, Ian Waterman, Pia Machart, Prashant Desai, Johan von Lensk, Tomakai Miyakawa, Nayong Lee, Farouk Baziz, and Morgan Berg. Business Ops, Commercial, and LRMs, Tarun Chakalim and Tom Roane. MPDs, Torsten Spenker and Harsha Badzuvadev. Solutions Consultants, Kate Garrett and Lorna Coward, and PMO Office led by Holger Liebig. Here with us to provide perspective on what is driving the success of this team and winning new opportunities with BI is Ali Furman. Ali?
Thanks, Peyton. Looking back to summer 2019, on top of a challenging situation with Icon Docs as a new strategic partner and a rather pessimistic business outlook for FY20, we started with an entirely new team on BI. The team, led by Andrew, took the bull by the horns, built up great relationships, and quickly turned concerns into trust and new business opportunities. Business reward came instantly, and with that, the breakthrough of BI as a Tier 1 account and key contributor to the success of enterprise. With a standard hit rate now of 78% and great wins in the previous quarter, I'm more than excited about the growth potential and future perspectives. So thank you all again for a stellar performance and congratulations to a very well-deserved award.
Next, I am pleased to recognize the West Coast North America Biotech team as another one of our top performing sales team for the year for Parexel. This team covers primarily California and Washington, and they've delivered more than $140 million in signed MBA this year, an amazing accomplishment. Congratulations to the West Coast North America Biotech team. Michael Arvizu, Amanda Hirschberger, Chris Hinosa, Stephanie LeBouve, Tricia Miller, Rob Muir, Joan Marie Waters, Elaine Rosen, Brennan Munley, and of course, Susan Grant Schneider. Jim Anthony will share some brief comments on the great performance by this team. Jim?
Thank you, Peyton. And it is just a tremendous achievement of this West Coast and West team this past year. What an amazing story. And I just want to, first of all, recognize Susan and her efforts, having first been a team member and then coming on board as the leader of this group, and the difference and the sea change that we had on this team after her leadership was introduced has really been, I think, a game changer for us. For the whole team, from the Pacific Northwest to the Bay Area, LA and San Diego, and of course in the West and the Midwest with Trish Miller. Just a real big congratulations to this team, a tremendous achievement and a huge boost to make ParExcel just extremely relevant in becoming one of the top CROs on the West Coast. It's just so proud to say those words. So thank you, team.
And our final Sales Team of the Year award goes to the East Coast North America Biotech team. This team covers primarily Massachusetts and delivered more than $200 million in signed MBA in fiscal 20, a fantastic accomplishment. Congratulations, Varej Melkonian, Sarkis Chutijan, Chirag Patel, Dean Sulia, Ash Scott, Emily McMiniman, and Nate Akers. Also joining us to comment on this great performance by this team is Jim Anthony. Jim?
Thank you, Peyton. And I think everyone in ParExcel is excited about our ability to be successful in the Northeast, and especially in our company's sort of old backyard of Cambridge. It's just a tremendous effort that Nate and the Northeast team have made. So many people who work for biotechs and small pharma in and around Boston area, as well as Northeast, may have had a history with ParExcel or a legacy working at ParExcel. So it just shows even more effort and really reflects on the loyalty and the regard that our company gets there in the Northeast area. Just want to say thank you to all the efforts of this team, and on behalf of the whole biotech leadership, great job really making ParExcel a CRO of choice in the Northeast.
Next, we have a new award, the FSP Win of the Year. We added this award to reflect the significant contributions of our FSP business to ParExcel and the outstanding work of these teams. The winning team generated $22 million in signed MBA for our FSP business, which represents growth of 315% year over year. They grew the headcount from 39 people in clinical to 124, resulting in revenue growth of 500%. I am pleased to present the FSP Team of the Year to Seattle Genetics and our shared ParExcel and ExecuPharm team, which includes Joan Marie Waters, Carrie McCloughlass, Samantha Parag, Roberta O'Kelly, Lisa Feeney, Michelle Berhage, and Stowe Millhouse. Chris Baker and Susan Grant Schneider are here with us to share their congratulations with this team. Chris and Susan?
Thanks, Peyton. We once again want to thank the team for being such a great example of partnership and working together. We want to thank Joan Marie, Lisa, Carrie, Stowe, Michelle, Samantha, and Roberta. And as Cameron and Sari said from the CGen testimonial video for the client, this team really helped partner with them and help them to grow during times of uncertainty.
And I just want to highlight how great this team has successfully unseated a competitor who had been blocking our strategy to grow within this customer. Through the strategic full service wins that were developed into FSP solutions, we have increased our footprint within this customer. We are anticipating 200 plus FSP headcount to add in 2021, and it's the synergy of this team that's going to ensure that they win this award again next year. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
And finally, an award that's very special to me. The With Heart Award. This award goes to individuals demonstrating extraordinary people leadership, driving results, serving as mentors, and leading by example. We have 6 recipients of this award this year. The first recipient of the With Heart Award goes to someone who quickly jumped in, working tirelessly nights and weekends when the pandemic hit last December, to find a solution to help customers run COVID-19 trials. What started a platform study for 3 customers in China turned into a global success with more than 100 awards across treatments and vaccines and more than 100 million in quick burning revenue for Parexel. Please join me in congratulating Fran Oko, recipient of our first 2020 With Heart Award. Joining us to provide some additional insight on this great work is Chris Rule. Chris.
Thank you, Jamie, and thank you, Fran, for this opportunity to acknowledge you in this forum. You've been a peer, a colleague, a mentor, and more for the last decade. It's been a privilege to watch you thrive as a leader in the ISS organization as part of our team for the last year. Fran, you are a true warehouse of specialized knowledge on infectious diseases and development of therapies to treat and prevent them. That's for certain. You are also a leader that is motivational, energizing, and compassionate with heart. You're an active listener who's outside the box thinking, knows no bounds. It's a privilege to honor you in this forum today for all you do and continue to do for Parexel. Thank you.
And while Fran has brought the know-how to our successes in the COVID-19 space, this individual worked behind the scenes to help make sense of the chaos. Without being asked, a leader stepped up, and when we needed it most, created our COVID-19 task force in late January. Organizing meetings, preparing content, supporting teams in whatever capacity needed, staying close to the breaking news, and ultimately helping to shape our response to COVID-19 to be the success it has and continues to be. Please join me in congratulating Ben Doff, recipient of our next 2020 With Heart Award. Joining us to provide some additional insight on this great work is Luke Van Hengel. Luke?
Thank you, Peyton. And Ben, congratulations. I'm so happy for you. I'm so proud of you. The company has been inspired by what you have done by bringing us all together to get focused and put so much attention in this important space. When there was no leader stepping up, you were the one who stepped up into this space to really bring us all together. And the successes that we are highlighting today are clearly as a result of what you have put into this, working weekends, late nights. When information was needed, you seem to already be 2 steps ahead of us. At times I was nervous, like, oh, this is going to take Ben a long time to figure out, but he had his finger on the pulse and continues to have his fingers on the pulse relative to this. So again, Ben, you're awesome. You've done such a fantastic job. We're all so happy for you, me more than anybody else. Thank you.
This next recipient is someone who over the last 2 years, as the delivery head in Asia Pacific, has played a key role in helping to grow the region by more than 150%, with more than $200 million in signed NDA. She works around the clock to delight her customers and is a true partner to her Asia Pacific business development colleagues. She consistently gets the job done and motivates her colleagues around her to elevate their game. Congratulations to Vicky Su. Joining us to share some insights on Vicky's contribution is Brian Yang.
Good morning, good evening, and good day, everyone. I'm here to present you the recipient with Heart Award this year, Vicky Su. It is my great honor to have a distinguished partner like Vicky. Vicky, your commitment and dedication to our client and the patient with all your heart really contribute to our success over the past 2 years. Last but not least, thank you for once again demonstrating everyone is in sales. Thank you.
Recently, as you all know, we re-signed the master service agreement with Pfizer and also have started to turn around our business and win new projects in the oncology franchise with this important top customer. Driving these efforts has been Fred Lemoyne. When Fred's not working on his accounts and mentoring his team, he's volunteering on charitable efforts for Parexel or leading training on bid pursuit meetings for operations. For many of us, he is the heart of Parexel. If Fred were speaking right now, he would be giving all of the credit to Kate Trainer, John McBride, Corinne Baumel. The list goes on. So today, we are excited to recognize Fred. Joining us to share some insights on Fred's contributions is Ollie Furman. Ollie?
Hey, thank you, Peyton. More than a year ago, we were facing a decreasing backlog, a poor RFP volume, low hit rate, many customer escalations on Pfizer. So best described as a perfect firm downward trajectory. And Fred and the team, with support from yourself, Jamie, spent weeks and months of painstaking hard work to turn around one of our flagship accounts, forecasting excellent numbers across all metrics now. And to achieve this, a number of very challenging hurdles had to be taken, and things could have gone differently. So those who have the privilege to work with Fred, including Pfizer stakeholders, would certainly subscribe to the facts that he is a great leader, an enthusiastic team builder, a very engaged and truly caring colleague within Parexel and beyond. Or, best summarized in a few words, he is a real with heart role model for us. So wholehearted congratulations to you, Fred.
In the middle of the year, this individual stepped up to lead the enterprise Asia Pacific team on top of covering her individual accounts. To provide some background, this team is responsible for generating more than $150 million in signed MBA, as well as supporting all global studies with Asia Pacific components, which is a differentiator for Parexel. This individual also volunteered to be on the Asia Pacific representative for COVID-19 task force and is constantly working to better Parexel. Please join me in congratulating Na Young Lee, the recipient of our 2020 With Heart Award. Joining us to share some insights on Na Young's contributions is Connell Burgess. Connell.
Congratulations, Na Young, on your With Heart Award. Very well deserved. I want to thank you in particular for stepping into a leadership role with regard to the client research directors in Asia Pacific. You've done an excellent job in that regard, particularly navigating the challenging COVID-19 pandemic and all the challenges that accrued from that. Your leadership, your commitment to the team, and making sure that Parexel remains highly visible in the region is greatly appreciated. So this award is very well deserved, and thank you for everything that you've been doing on behalf of Parexel.
Our final With Heart Award goes to someone who changed roles mid-year from a CSD, generating $26 million in signed MBA, to a player coach, managing 5 people in the UK. And he's generating exciting momentum for biotech in the EU. On top of his great sales skills, this individual was awarded the Lifetime Achievement Award this year by the Scottish Government for achievements of service leavers throughout their whole career, both in the military and their accomplishments after leaving the military. He was asked to speak at Help for Heroes, a UK-based charity supporting wounded, injured, and sick veterans, launching a new campaign to highlight the number of armed forces personnel affected by injury or illness in the last 2 decades. Please join me in congratulating David Dent. Joining us to share some insights on David's contributions is Annika Zetterstrom. Annika?
So thank you, Peyton. I've had the pleasure to work with David for 5 years now. And every time David shows up to a meeting or to a call, he's present. He is engaged and he's curious and is actively listening to understand the situation. As a person, I find him very genuine and is eager to learn more and develop himself. His humble approach, not putting himself first, makes him very empathetic and easy to like. David always seems to find time to help and support. And whether this is in his personal life or in professional life, everything he does, he do with heart. So this is a very well-deserved prize. Congratulations, David.
In closing, I raise my Parexel coffee mug to all of you and thank you for your incredible work, the way you have supported each other and partnered across Parexel. You are bringing the energy and you are bringing the heart. Thank you, and here's to 2021 and celebrating together soon. Congratulations again to all of our winners. I hope we had some surprises. I think we did, but it was just fantastic to be able to see you all recognized by your leaders especially. So congratulations, and I just am incredibly excited for 2021. So before we close, I realize we have a few things we have to follow up on. So if I can go to my first slide, I realized after seeing Greg's presentation today, that some of you actually may not be aware of the promise that Greg made at the end of the meeting in Dallas. So actually, before we go to this one, can we roll the video, please, from Dallas?
Serious, I've committed to Peyton that if we hit the sales target this year, that they can take me to that bull for an hour next year.
No, I'm not really going to try and duct tape him to a bull. And Greg is right. We actually did not quite hit our goals for 2021. However, you've got to admit, this is a little bit of fun to see some strategically placed duct tape on our CFO. So instead, I would actually like to challenge Greg to a new promise, especially given that his slides were really focused on some stretch targets. I must say, I had a swallow when I saw the over 3.6 billion in MBA for our stretch target. So those types of year over year results really deserve something big for us to look forward to together. So this is my challenge, right? And while it's tempting to say, if we don't hit these results, I'm going to duct tape Greg, I don't want to do that. Instead, I really would like us to have some fun together. So let's call it a challenge, not a promise from Greg. And if we exceed our MBA stretch target, that Greg will host a special party for all of us together, not virtually, actually a real party. So I do have some ideas, and these are just throwing these out. We can develop these, and I'll have to talk to Greg live about these. But the next slide gives you one idea I had. First of all, Greg could be the bartender. I know he makes a mean margarita, so he could do a margarita station for us. On the next slide, I remember in Dallas, we had the music going, and we could have Greg sing with the band. That could be a lot of fun. He really knows his music. That could be a ton of fun. Or maybe he could lead us on the dance floor. Remember the line dancing in Dallas? I think we could get Greg out there. Maybe he could actually do all of these things. But, my favorite is that maybe Greg could host us on a boat. Maybe it's a sunset cruise party. I am not sure if this is feasible in Dublin, but this photo of Captain Greg was just too funny not to use, so I had to. So you get what I'm going at. That's celebrating together and celebrating together as the number one CRO for growth. That's where we are today, and that's where we want to stay through 2021. It's a big goal, but I know we're up to it. And we thought we would end today like we began the day. Really building upon the momentum. And the reason that we're confident, and hopefully you heard it in each of our presentations, is that we are confident we have the winning team. We are confident we have the right strategy, and it's a patient-focused strategy, and that we're in a great market. There's work to do as part of that strategy, but the progress and momentum there is just as impressive as the progress we're making in sales. We're going to keep developing and innovating together. And we're going to make sure that we show up for our customers with our We Care with heart every day. So I'm just incredibly proud to be part of this industry-leading team. Next slide. So this is actually my favorite visual. If you only remember one visual from this entire day together, I think it's probably this one. One boat, one team, rowing together and winning. And I think nothing says it better than that visual. So before we close today, I do want to get your feedback about a couple things. So we'll be sending a survey out just to get your feedback about what works, doesn't work, and kind of our new normal. But on the next slide, I want to go to the poll. So we've got a polling question that should come up. So go ahead and break out your phone. And in one word, what has made the biggest difference since a year ago to increase our success and growth? Let's get your feedback on this one. We asked some similar questions to this actually of our ELT panel earlier today, and they had a number of answers, but I'd like to hear from all of you. So breakoutslido.com, and we should be able to actually see the answers come up. And I'll also be looking your feedback on the survey for what kind of celebration we need to have and other ideas for how we can celebrate with Greg on my new challenge. So we'll give it a second for the results to come up. It should come up in the form of a word cloud. And here it's building. Oh, confidence, growth, cooperation, collaboration is already popping out in Lyme, which is exciting. Passion, fantastic. Teamwork, transparency, leadership. But there's a lot of words here that are fantastic. Belief, mojo, alignment, availability, caring, unity, with heart, focus, breaking silos. Wow, obviously popping out right now is teamwork, which is pretty cool to see. Us all rowing together, collaborating, using all of the roles we all play, all of the seats in the boat. This is fantastic. What a perfect way to end our time together. I'm completely aligned with your feedback. Thank you for making the day so interactive. I know it's been challenging not to physically be together. I must say that the breakouts were nice because I actually felt like I was at a team. And I just want to end, just like Jamie said, with a big thank you and congratulations to this amazing team. As we end, don't forget that there is the Parexel Expo, and there's going to be games and prizes associated with it. It's a 360 interactive station. It opens up now, actually, but it will be available all week, so you can do it at a time that works for you and your time zone. But have fun. We're going to see how people are interacting with it. And again, thank you for all that you do. Take care. And get out your Parexel coffee mug. Cheers.